His name is Robert Paulson.
His name was Robert Paulson.
Is Robert Paulson,
His
Lucas?
name is
Potato,
Robert
potato.
I made that mistake too. I typed in the chat first, his name was, and then I looked up to be sure, and it's actually, the line is, his name is Robert Paulson. And of course, that is a tribute to Meatloaf, who passed away. He was a rad dude. He was a legendary rock star. He was in Fight Club, and that was the reference we made to him. And he was also pro-freedom. He opposed the mandates. He opposed mask mandates and vax mandates. He stood up against them. Apparently, he criticized Greta Thunberg. I don't know if that matters as much, but I really respect that he was an older guy. So he was 74, and he said that he wasn't going to live his life in fear, and they shouldn't shut down the world for politics, and that's what they're doing. And I respect that. And he got seriously ill with COVID, and that was his choice. I'm sure you're going to get all those Herman Cain Award people, laughing at him. But these people don't understand what freedom means. It means if I want to choose to go bungee jumping, I can choose to go bungee jumping. There's danger. If I want to choose to go skydiving and my shoot doesn't happen, well, I made those choices. And Meatloaf stood up for everyone else's freedom. He chose up for his freedom, and he knew the risks. So you know what? Mad respect to Meatloaf. Sad to see him go, but, he was 74. So we got a bunch of other news, too. We got Joe Rogan, that hoax list where there were like 270 doctors, and it turned out to be like 80 doctors and like some dentist or something. The list is now bigger. And now it's 1,000 medical and science experts. Yeah. Okay, we'll talk about that stuff. We'll talk about culture and censorship. We've got two really big stories. Joe Biden has lost another court battle. A federal judge has struck down the federal worker mandate for vaccines. And we have a new report from Reuters saying that prior COVID infection provides better immunity it did provide better immunity during the Delta surge, which we can then take data from that, extrapolate, and apply it to the future. Seems like Luke was right on this one, and I was wrong. That they're going to start easing up the mandates, but we'll see. It's yet to be seen here in the United States. So we'll get into all this stuff. Joining us today is Christian Toto. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm the editor of HollywoodInToto.com, and my new book is called Virtue Bombs: How Hollywood Got Woke and Lost Its Soul.
So we can talk a lot about this cultural stuff, particularly. I think you're an expert on that.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be awesome. We got Libby Emmons joining us tonight.
Hi, here I am. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Post Millennial. Glad to be back.
And hey guys, my name is Luke Radowski of WeAreChange.org, and today I am wearing my Make America Florida shirt, which you could get on thebestpoliticalshirts.com, but I'm also wearing it because in a few days from now, I will be moving to Miami, Florida, and I am extremely appreciative and grateful for all of you amazing human beings, a part of this broadcast and podcast. Hopefully I could come back maybe during the spring, maybe during the fall. We'll see, but I want to do a lot of amazing things in Florida. I want to do some cool projects. If you guys want to get involved with that, hit me up. You guys know my contact information, and I will definitely miss you guys in the conversations and everything we've been able to achieve here. It's been a wild ride. And,
it's okay, Luke. Luke got really scared over what's been going on.
Hey, no.
He was like, guys, please, I got to get out of here. And we were like, come on, Luke, it'll be fine.
I was trying to leave for so long, but then the threats came, and then the swatting came, and I was like, I can't look like a punk. I got to stay a little bit longer and a little bit longer. But seriously, very appreciative of everybody and everything, and it's going to be sad to go. But
we were wrapping up a show, and then Luke goes, I'm going to be leaving right as all these threats are coming in. People are going to think I'm scared.
I'm like, I can't do that. And then I kept postponing it. But, that happens.
Yeah, that's part of the nature of Luke. He migrates with the seasons.
He does, yeah.
I just wanted to clarify. I'm not going out for cigarettes, right?
Okay.
All right, I'm not going out.
Sure.
Give us fair warning.
Yeah.
If you guys want us to maybe go down to Florida for a week or so, maybe party with Luke and do a show down there, put a 5 in the chat.
5
in the chat for that.
Smash the like button.
Smash
yeah.
it. Yeah.
And if we get enough likes, then we'll take the new mobile studio down to Florida, and we'll do the show down there for a little bit.
I like the sound of that. I'm Ian Crossland. You follow me at IanCrossland.net, and I will see you soon.
I'm going to make sure to pierce those tires so you guys stay in Florida when you guys get down there, because there's a lot of amazing things to do there.
Can you send a care package of freedom to Denver for me? Just
yeah,
for me.
I would love to do that.
Care package of freedom.
Yes, that's how it works. Yeah, I'm also here pushing buttons in the corner. Very excited to have Libby back, who's apparently matching Luke as he's about to head off and leave us in the distance.
Yep,
so.
I'm also wearing red.
Yes, I'm excited for tonight's conversation. It's going to be great with Christian and Libby.
Before we get started, head over to Timcast.com, become a member, help support all of our work here at the Timcast IRL podcast, and you'll be supporting our journalists. As a member, you'll get an ad-free experience and access to exclusive members-only segments from the Timcast IRL podcast. You don't want to miss it. On Fridays, we do the Green Room show every so often, and this is where we have our guests coming in the green room, and they're hanging out, and it's very candid. And that way we can have, we can kind of mix it up. So again, Timcast.com, support the show. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share this show right now, the URL, everywhere you can, because that grassroots effort will make us bigger than CNN and MSNBC and Fox News overnight. But let's get into that first story. We got a tweet here from NPR. More than 1,000 scientists and health professionals are calling on Spotify to crack down on COVID falsehoods being spread on Joe Rogan's podcast. The pressure highlights a trend. Podcasts are becoming influential sources of misinformation. I want to pull up the article, but I want to point out the framing technique they pulled off here from NPR. They didn't say being spread by Joe Rogan. They said on Joe Rogan's podcast. What they're saying is anybody who wants to interview someone who would say something out of line with the official establishment narrative must be stopped. It's not about Joe Rogan as an individual. It's about the fact that Joe would talk to someone who is considered persona non grata by the machine. Now that is a whole new level of creepy. If they were just saying Joe has bad ideas, well, then you could be like, well, you know, he's not the expert. He's the guy who interviews a lot of the experts. No. They're talking about the people he hosts and interviews. They don't like the fact that he gives people an opportunity to speak up. And I also want to point out the list was originally 270 people, and it turned out only 87 were actually practiced medicine. I guess technically you could say veterinarians practice medicine, and dentists do too, but some of them were like podcast hosts. Now the list has expanded. They say an open letter urging Spotify to crack down on COVID, blah, blah, blah. The medical and scientific experts slammed Rogan's track record of airing false claims. They go on to say the list has now expanded to 1,000 people. And you know what? So what? They're going after podcasts. They're mad that this is one of the last bastions of unfettered speech, though there have been podcasts that have been banned. Here they go. They did it to YouTube. They did that big adpocalypse campaign. The media smeared them relentlessly. Now they're going to go after all the big podcast platforms.
But this is crazy and just absolutely absurd. I remember seeing the 270 doctors that they first put out, and it was everywhere in the corporate media. And I was like, let me just take a look at this list. And I saw dentist, and I saw political professor, I saw veterinarian, I saw students, I saw political scientists. And I'm like, wait, what? These people should be, number one, ashamed of themselves because they should be challenging these ideas, not trying to silence them. And I made a post about this, and it went all throughout Twitter, specifically saying these are not practicing medical doctors. Now there's 1,000 of them. I haven't checked the list, but I still remember being publicly attacked by a gynecologist on Twitter who was on that list, being like, he's calling me out. He's trying to, blur the lines here. He's trying to spread misinformation. No, we're not. You could counter the information. You don't have to silence it. And when you type in Joe Rogan into Google News right now, you get nothing but smear pieces, attack pieces that literally look like they almost come from the Chinese Cultural Revolution with doublespeak Orwellian language. Yahoo News has an article. The problem with Joe Rogan and white boys. The Independent. These experts say Joe Rogan is an extraordinary danger to society. Here's why. NPR, of course, has more blatant articles about online misinformation. Again, counter the data. Dr. Robert Malone has a lot of credentials. He listed his credentials. He is someone who was an extremely important part to this entire process that the world is going through with this larger experiment. Challenge his ideas. Don't take out his tongue, because when you do that, you prove him right.
Look at this one from NJ.com. The long list of things I will not be asking Joe Rogan for advice about. And it's got Fauci. He says, I've been an infectious disease expert for 50 years. And then Joe Rogan saying, I get kicked in the head for fun. Yeah, okay.
Not anymore. He quit kickboxing
and
because he didn't like getting hit.
But it's just so stupid. Anybody who's ever actually listened to his show know that he's an inquisitive guy who asks questions of experts. That's it. If they really wanted to play games, they could show Fauci, and then they could show Peter McCullough or Dr. Robert Malone. That would be really interesting. Fauci would be like, I'm a bureaucrat of the past 40 years, and Malone would be like, I invented mRNA vaccines. How about that one? But they shut down Malone.
Yeah, there's another thing about this, though, which is this is what happens to any new media. You remember the blogosphere? Do you guys remember the blogosphere?
I know the name.
Blogosphere.
Yeah, so this was like, it was a while. It was like in the early 2000s, all of these blogs were popping up and people were getting their news from blogs. And so you had mainstream media outlets, corporate media outlets slamming the blogosphere. Like I believe the press secretary at the White House actually used that term, saying, you can't trust these sources. These are terrible sources. That's exactly what they're doing now to podcasters. They don't like anyone that gets more popular than their own, corporate media outlets. That's
Wasn't-
why, that's why it's so important.
Wasn't PJ Media like pajamas media? Wasn't
Yeah.
that the slam against the bloggers? Like they were just in their pajamas
Yeah.
at home, and that's why you can't trust them.
Ryan
Right.
And they
Stelter
could have
doesn't
embraced
wear
it.
pants.
Right,
Yeah, literally.
right.
But I'm not
I
joking.
saw those
It's
photos.
real.
Those
by the
were
way,
terrifying.
I no longer
photos.
wear pajamas personally.
I cover late night TV, and late night TV gets so many facts wrong on such a consistent basis. Where are the lineup of doctors saying that Stephen Colbert is full of it? Where are they?
Did you see Colbert call for abolishing the Senate?
Yeah, that was weird.
He was like, "What's the point?" He's like, "The Democrats represent more people," and it's like, represent does not mean they agree with them. That's it's fascinating. They don't like their machine being challenged. That's the obvious point, but they're losing, and that's why I love the Joe Rogan subject matter, because Joe's winning and doesn't care. He doesn't. You know what's really funny? I feel like Joe's sitting on the throne of biggest podcast, doing his thing, and then mainstream media and us are like just down on the ground bickering to each other and complaining about it, and Joe just doesn't care.
How long will Spotify have his back, though? I think that's the big question.
What's 2 years?
I think that'll be it.
Average age of contracts, and then once it's up, they're going to be like, "Nah." But I
They must
actually
be making a lot of money from him, though.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
the company was valued over $1 billion.
Right.
the
after he joined.
stock skyrocketed.
As soon as he came on the platform.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed because, I was like, when I knew that the shift was going to be happening, I was like, man, I should have bought all that Spotify stock, right? Because it just skyrocketed. I didn't even think about it, to be honest.
In reference to that, Stephen Colbert saying that we should abolish the Senate or whatever he was saying, it was weird because he was like, the Senate is the most anti-democratic thing. But what he doesn't seem to understand is we're not a democracy. We're a democratic republic. And the Senate is the essence of the republic.
Yes.
It's a stopgap for democratic mob mentality.
Stephen Colbert
Yes,
is
exactly.
Emperor Palpatine. That's giving him too much credit, though.
But not as funny as the Emperor.
Right. It would have been funnier if when he called for abolishing the Senate, he just his voice changed. He will be dissolving the galactic Senate. I mean, the Federal Republic Senate.
He's the jester. Klaus Schwab is the real Emperor Palpatine, in my opinion, with everything he's been pushing forward with the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset. But again, Joe Rogan is as popular as he is because he comes off as very genuine, very honest. He has conversations that a lot of people are afraid to even think about, and he entertains ideas in a way that's not forced upon you, in a way that is naturally understood and just talked about in a rational way, rather than, of course, PR corporate talking points. And that's why he is where he is right now. Let's admit that.
I think Joe represents a regular person. Fauci
Yes.
does not.
Yeah.
No.
So for the longest time, there's been this conversation around citizen journalists, and it's really funny because people don't know what it means. Citizen journalism referenced somebody would be walking their dog and then see something happen and then film it. And that's what it means. You're a citizen who happens to commit an act of journalism, but people who specifically try to engage in journalism are not citizen journalists. But the conversation around that was basically, why should we trust these individuals? And a lot of people said, well, look, the suit on TV talking to you as the authority doesn't work anymore. People have trust in themselves, and they want to talk to trusted people. They don't trust foreign, like outside of their life. I mean, establishment elites. They want a regular person they can feel like their neighbor who can talk to them. So Fauci represents the establishment elite of we're smarter than you and we know it. And Joe represents, hey, man, don't listen to me. I'm an idiot, but I just got some questions.
But there was this great clip going around. I think James Lindsay shared it from the World Economic Forum in November. And it was this lady talking about how the elites all are banding together internationally and are working together to get their agenda across. But in each country individually, the lower classes don't trust the elites. And she was talking about this as though this is some big problem, that the rest of us don't trust our elites. We don't trust these people who are telling us what to do based on their own international conglomeration of, ideology and wealth. Hoarding.
Real quick, I hate the elites. Not every single person, it's not absolute, but just like Fauci and Biden and the Uniparty and Mitch McConnell's in there, these establishment, these ultra wealthy.
I'm dying to say something because they're literally calling themselves the
I love
elites.
that.
We're the elites. Our
You're the
pack
pleb.
got closer. We're a lot closer, but everyone else doesn't like us. Gee, you wonder why? As of course we literally went through an entire situation. Why are you putting that madman in front of me?
Controlled opposition.
That dog torturer. I don't want to be seen with that man. But they are literally in a situation where they have profited off tremendously off of this entire pandemic. They have created a situation where the rich are becoming richer than they ever have before, and they wonder, why don't they trust us? And of course, their circle got tighter. And what's really surprising about the World Economic Forum, they literally put out all of their plans right in front of you. They write about it.
They said
boast about it.
They said it straight out. They discussed the Great Reset in detail.
Exactly.
And then as soon as we all started writing about like, oh, y'all, have you seen this plan? This is this crazy plan. The fact checkers swooped in and it started saying that this wasn't actually real. And it's like, look at the damn documents. They were right there. They said it. They said it out loud.
Yeah, the corporate media is like, conspircy theorists. These are crazy people making it up. And I'm like, and they literally just reverted New World Order into the Great Reset. That's exactly what it is. And let's be honest with it.
And they figured we'd all be such plebes that we wouldn't actually notice. We can't actually read.
They rebranded the New World Order and still put out all of their documents.
We're like the medieval Catholics who don't understand Latin. No, we know what it says.
They literally try to make you eat bugs. There's like short little videos that they put out on Twitter saying eating bugs is going to be great and save the world.
So check this out. On January 20th, I was on Twitter and the What's Happening page popped up with the Great Reset is the World Economic Forum's proposal for post-COVID economic recovery, Reuters and the BBC report. And I just screen grabbed it and put LOL. I thought it was funny. They keep trying to do this thing where they're like, the Great Reset, it's just this, it's just that. The funny thing is, it reminds me of when Hillary Clinton was campaigning and she put on a Southern drawl when she and like, she didn't realize the internet existed and that human beings talk to each other.
It's pretty old.
So what's fascinating about the Great Reset, the World Economic Forum, the Davos Group, is I feel like it's a bunch of 80-year-olds who are like, how are people finding out about our plan in the Great Reset? And it's like, have those social media just tell everyone what to believe. And then regular people look at it and go, yeah, that's BS. Like we're not cows, or you know what I mean? We don't just get told something and go, oh. But it really is it. When Hillary Clinton put on that Southern dialect because she thought she was going to trick people into thinking that she was from the South or whatever. I get it. She is, but she doesn't talk that way. She was a New York senator. Yeah. And then the video goes viral and everyone made fun of her and laughed. And then she was like, how did I lose?
It's hubris and elitist thinking that they're above everyone else and therefore they could get away with it. This is why the Pope, Trudeau, Macron, Biden, Kamala, all the world leaders have been saying the same thing. We need a great reset. We need to build back better. They slowly and calmly tell you that this is their plan openly, and you're deemed a conspiracy theorist for even bringing it up and talking about it when their plans are laid out and they're implementing it right in front of our eyes. There's no hiding it. Yeah, it's right here.
Yeah, what they mean is we need to solidify our power.
Exactly.
That's what they mean.
Yeah. I want to give them some credit. There's so little self-awareness in our culture these days. Calling themselves the elite, yes. I'm very impressed by that. That is cool. All right?
Someone referred to them as elitist. Was that you? I wasn't there, but they were like, based Tim calling him elitist and not elite. But I wasn't there if you said that.
But it was the video is actually really funny when this woman where was she at the World Economic Forum? And she's like the elites. She's like referring to herself in that way, and it's just like. There's one way not to endear yourself to regular people.
Then she opened up her blouse and there was an E on there. So.
It's like a Globo Gym from Dodgeball.
We're better than you.
We're better than you, and we know it.
It's like on
I saw a tweet from Clint Russell, Liberty Lockdown, Liberty Lockpot. If you'd stop referring to yourself as our elites, I'd hate you at least 10% less. And I was like, how bad could it be? It was worse than I thought it was going to be.
You know what's funny though? I feel like it's the children of the previous generation's elites. And they say that, wealth only lasts a few generations. So you end up with these like the robber barons and stuff. And then over time, they have kids who have kids. And now we have this global elite that are kind of like the inbred royalty who don't really know how to run a system. Yeah. So they've inherited all of this. They never earned it. They never fought for it. And it's like they're going through their own fourth turning where the great-grandchildren of these past billionaires and millionaires and powerful, royals and politicos have no idea what they're doing, but they just know they're better than you. That's what they were told.
I think we have to really realize that nobody really knows what they're doing. I went to prep school with a lot of really smart people who have no idea what they're doing, and they're, running the country now.
That's terrifying.
What's the point of being here anyway, being a human? I still don't know.
That was a huge leap, Ian.
That's a big
it's like,
question.
There's problems with our country. Why am I alive?
I know survival is like part of it, but other than that, what's the point?
I mean, this is why a lot of people say that religion is very necessary to a culture, to a society, because there are a lot of people right now that have no purpose, and they're asking the same question you are, but they're being given answers by the elites who want to control and shape everything, and so they're telling them things. They're telling them crazy things, and then when these people go out and riot and burn things down, they're protected. So they found their meaning, they found their purpose. But you know the crazy thing about it, they have their purported purpose. You know, with these Black Lives Matter groups or Antifa, we got to fight against oppression. And it's like, have you ever actually sat down and asked yourself, what's next? What's after that? What do you do? It's like these individuals are just a lost generation. And that's where the chaos is coming from. But it's being weaponized by the elites who want to dramatically reshape the planet.
I'm concerned about the kids wearing masks, talking about a lost generation. Because if I'd been raised not seeing facial expression, that would have been a hard thing to navigate.
I know, and you're bad enough.
I know. I'm already semi-weird.
But Ian, the elites want to party in a way where their servants are clearly marked and masked and represented by, of course, the face diapers that they wear. While, of course, the ruling elites get to have their galas and their lovely red carpets where they get to be free and not have to wear face diapers.
Well, Christian and I were just talking about this because both of us have, send our kids to school and the kids are fully masked.
And
That's
outdoors
crazy.
too. I have to actually
Yeah.
tell my kid, I do this waving of the face as soon as I see him take the mask off, take
Me
the mask
too.
off.
Oh,
Adam Carolla has a theory about this. He says it's crate training. You're crate training the young kids to kind of obey.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to disagree with that. Give me something else because it's not
Absolutely
science.
not.
When
I
we get to
posted-
when we get to school in the morning, I say to my son like, you got to put your thing. And he's like, okay, time for my complicity covering. And we at least, we joke about it because I want him to know that it's stupid the whole time. I want him to fully be aware of
Yeah.
how stupid it is every second that he's wearing it.
And
as soon as he's done with school, I'm like, get that stupid thing off your face.
A couple days
You
ago,
know?
I posted a meme of students that were told to be 6 feet apart. There was a police officer looking over them. They were outside with a mask, and then the tagline was like, "This is how you make someone a slave. This is how you raise someone not to think independently, how to literally act like they're in prisons, and that's what they're doing in schools." I would absolutely recommend for you guys to try to do anything you can. I mean, both of you guys are in New York City. You guys are.
No,
I'm
Christian's
in Denver, but same
Denver. I'm
same
sorry.
demographic, really.
But
Yeah.
like, there's probably other families that feel like you that would want to create a homeschooling pod network that would actually help your kids so much more, because I feel so bad for these kids that have to go through
But
this.
you know what really bothers me is how, we used to see people from Southeast Asia, they wear masks when they're sick. And I'm like, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Like if you're sick and you know it and you have to go out and do stuff, like you wear a mask. Now what the problem I see is people aren't sick, but they're all just blindly doing this thing. And then what that creates is it polarizes. We have a hyperpolarization now where there are people who are overtly anti-mask. And I'm just like, yo, man, like if you get sick, you put a mask on. If you're not sick, and you don't, I guess, but we're struggling to have the nuanced conversations about what makes sense. Like anybody who questions the mandate, for instance, on vaccines is anti-vaxxer.
Right.
When like
which
clearly
is
everybody
crazy.
is pro-vaccine, except for like there's many people who aren't, but there are people who have specific questions about something specific. The nuance is stripped out of it, and I think it's on purpose.
Oh yeah.
They want
think
to
so,
want to
too.
make you an extremist. You say, "Hey, this policy for kids is dumb." Well, then you're a dumb redneck anti-masker.
But here's the thing about making you an extremist, right? I mean, you have the Biden administration going after domestic terrorists, right? They made this their like a big Department of Justice thing. And when you look at what they're going after, they're saying that if you are anti-government or anti-authority, then you are some sort of extremist. These are the terms that are being used: anti-government, anti-authority, extremist. I saw a bunch of things that were like white supremacist, anti-government extremist. And it's like, what is this about? Okay, so white supremacy, that's bad. Sure, obviously. Anti-government? And so if you're opposed to the existing power structure, that makes you
George Washington.
some sort of extremist.
Remember Resist, which erupted in
Resist.
2017?
Resist.
It
You
was
had to
pretty cool and
resist
pretty
everything.
mainstream.
Yeah, for the whole. Yeah, you had to resist everything the man said for 4 years. Whether you look, and you weren't supposed to look into the policies. You
Right.
weren't supposed to understand what was being proposed.
Last time
You
I
were
checked,
just
he was
supposed to be-
in the government. I think.
Yes,
Brett
and
Trump
you were
was,
just supposed to be
Do you guys
entirely opposed.
You see that story about the guy who needed a kidney, and
Oh,
because he didn't get vaxxed, that they told him like, "Guess you'll die." That was the craziest thing. I was just like, the lady on the phone, pure evil, like evil incarnate. You thought it was going to be like a giant demonic man with horns and a business suit being like, "I am the Antichrist." No, it's the lady at the hospital who's like, "I know you need a heart, but for reasons we don't care why, you decided not to get the vaccine, so you'll die now. It's like, you're crazy.
One
Or
thing I
that lady
loved
in
was on,
Texas who the guy was recording saying, you don't qualify to take this vaccine. Sorry, not this vaccine. You don't qualify for this antibody treatment because of the race of ethnicity.
And then the media claimed it wasn't true. They
That's
were like,
true
no one's
in,
being denied
that's true
monoclonal
in like
antibodies
half a
based on
dozen
race.
states.
Yeah.
And it was part of the FDA directive, I believe. One thing I loved was Maud Marin in New York. She was running for city council, but she recently posted on Twitter she was having some design work done in her house, and an architect showed up to her house and asked her to wear a mask. And Maud said, no, and you're fired. Get out of my house. We're done here. I wouldn't want that person working on my house either.
People have lost it, man.
You brought up that Department of Justice statement. I saw James Lindsay and Joe Rogan talking about it. It was kind of convoluted in like 2 paragraphs. Have you seen that, Tim? Do you know what she's talking
one?
about?
Department of Justice. Let me pull it up because I know.
What was that pertaining
It's like
to?
a statement
wrote
defining who now is considered dangerous.
Oh, yeah. And they said like anti-capitalists. And then, I think Glenn Greenwald tweeted out because it's actually a while ago. Yeah. And so they were like, hey, left, you've all cheered for this and celebrated. It's you. And then they posted the list and it was like anarchist and anti-capitalist, are considered violent, dangerous extremists. And then there's like patriots or whatever. So it's like, yo, look, man, they may like the fact that they can use Antifa as useful idiots to wreak havoc and cause panic and destroy things, and they can rebuild. But rest assured, they will come for Antifa when it becomes convenient for them, or when Antifa is truly inconvenient,
or when they're done with them, when they fulfill their agenda, when they got rid of everything else, they're going to be looking like the nail for the hammer that they created. It's only a matter of time, and the deep intelligence state has the information, is tracing and databasing all of these people. We learned that they even have drones that they're flying over protests. They have dragnet surveillance, telephone technology that literally gets all the information from people's phones at protests. They have all of their data. They have all of their information. They have all of their networks. And why wouldn't they be collecting it when, of course, you have the state that throughout history has been doing really bad things?
Yeah, so it was a testimony before the Senate, and it was, I think, Matthew Olson, who is the assistant attorney general, perhaps. He said domestic violent extremists are often motivated by ideology and personal grievances. We've seen a growing threat from those who are motivated by racial animus, as well as those who ascribe to anti-government, anti-authority ideologies.
So this
anti-authority.
Anti-authority,
Yep.
which is kind of the basis for the entire United States.
That's right.
Yes.
And
We are anti-authority. That's like half our deal, at least.
Weren't the Ghostbusters anti-authority too?
Yeah, for
But
sure.
is Antifa pro-authority? I mean, I would say yes.
Yeah.
But do
depends
they
on
think they are? So are they listening to that going like,
And
hey,
he
we're
also
cool?
said today investigating and prosecuting domestic violent extremists is one of our top priorities on the front lines.
This is only because there aren't enough white nationalists and white supremacists. They have to cast.
They got
in
a
that
short
way.
supply, sadly.
Yeah, it has to be like Patriot. It has to be. Yeah, it has to be everything. It has to be whatever they can find.
They
This
have
is
a
like
budget for arresting dissent that are going to need
That's
some
right. They
dissent.
gotta beat the
At
budget.
feel
some
like-
point in there, they said like if you want to criticize the government, it may not be considered terrorism because it's considered First Amendment protection. The word "may" it may not be considered terrorism.
That's
That was
nice.
very confusing.
My friends, in 20 years, everyone's going to be like 4.5 feet tall, androgynous, holding hands with squeaky voices, and that's going to be humanity because like they're just shaving off the tall grass. Everyone, it's like it's eroding so quickly. The people don't realize this, but there's been several cases that I've tweeted about, talked about, where people have been charged with hate crimes for speech or for like bordering on speech. There was one case where someone took a pride flag and then I guess they like burned it and threw it in front of a gay bar and they said, "Oh, that was hateful harassment or something like that." And it's like no one was there, no one watched it happen, nobody was directly harmed by it. It's kind of a dick move in my opinion, but the guy got charged with a hate crime for doing it. I'm like, that's kind of crazy, you know what I mean? But that's where we're moving, and we're getting. There was two people were on what were they on, like the New York train, the Long Island Railroad, and they were shouting things about foreigners, and then threw a beer can at someone, and they went, aha, throwing that beer can and saying that. Now it's a hate crime, and like you get a very serious charge for that. So they're starting to incorporate hate speech into making it illegal. And a lot of people 10 years ago were saying that, the goal of the left is to make it so hate speech would be completely illegal. There are many proponents who have pushed saying that it should be illegal. And now we're seeing aggravated charges on people for speaking things that are offensive.
And it's
But
already
it has to be associated with a crime, though, in the U.S., whereas in other countries, like in Canada,
What
hate
was
speech
the
is
crime of throwing a rainbow flag in front of a bar?
Well, they have to call it a crime of some sort.
Right, but like
Arson,
Burning
Maybe it's
property?
arson?
But it was their property. It was someone bought a flag, burned it, and threw it in front of a building, and they said it was like harassment. So they make up the crime
Yeah.
to fit how they
Yeah.
can turn it into hate speech or something.
And what's happening in Canada and the UK already
Mm-hmm.
with these existing laws is so worrying. I remember walking around in the United Kingdom doing interviews about English people not having the First Amendment. Would they want the First Amendment? And I ran into a person who had his whole life ruined, was thrown in jail, had to face court proceedings because he called someone a bloke. Right? And this person that he called a bloke was someone that identified as something else, but because he did it offhandedly, he literally was sent to jail.
Shout out
that's
to
happened
Zuby.
to a bunch of people.
Shout out to Zuby, who said, "Okay, dude." It was
Yep.
"Okay, dude," right? That's what he said, and he got suspended on Twitter for saying it.
Yep.
Well, or
What?
or Megan Murphy, who said
Oh,
that
yeah.
Jessica Yaniv was him.
Yeah.
I think she got banned for saying "yeah, him." That was her whole tweet.
Shout out to Zuby for getting his visa, American
Yes.
visa.
Yeah.
He's going to be around a lot more now.
Oh, sweet.
Stoked.
Nice job, dude. Sorry
I
to
missed the
to
old-
derail the conversation
No,
to
no.
something
Now you gotta
positive
finish
there
it.
for a second. Or is
I missed the ACLU 1.0. That's what we need.
Right?
Yeah.
I missed that too.
What happened? Did change of
Oh,
leadership?
I can tell you what happened. So
yeah.
when Donald Trump got elected, they made a ton of money off of the Muslim ban, as it was called. Now, it included Venezuela, and some other countries, but the left called the Muslim ban. And the ACLU said, "Trump, you can't do this. It's unconstitutional." The interesting thing was that the banning of travel from these countries actually advice from the Obama administration, but that doesn't matter. So everybody protests. The ACLU announces they're filing a lawsuit to stop this. And then all the leftists are like, yeah, and they sign up for the ACLU. And the ACLU is like, we're making bank, baby. And then Charlottesville happened. And the ACLU defended the right of the right to organize. And then everyone said, you made this happen. You defended it. And they were like, but we've always defended free speech for everyone. And the left started canceling in droves. So they came out and said, we're going to reassess what free speech means. And now the ACLU is the Anti-Civil Liberties Union because in many, many cases, they have come out overtly against civil rights. And I'm not
They
exaggerating.
sure have over
It's
and over again.
crazy.
Yeah, I was
Well,
tracking
didn't they
Hey,
that.
complain
money
this week
talks,
about
baby.
there was some sort of transparency, educational policy that was
Oh,
discussed?
this is a great idea. This transparency and
right,
education.
and they were
thing.
against it. ACLU was against
but
it.
here's the thing about this. So education is now a national issue. That's what the left wanted this whole time.
They got it.
Parents are super involved in kids' educations. That's what the left has wanted this whole time. Parents are saying, let's have transparency. Let's see what the syllabus is. That's all it is. Let's see what the syllabus is before the year starts. That way we know what's going on. That way we can help our kids. We can know what's happening in their classroom. We can know what they're learning. And for some reason, the teachers' unions are all against this. They've been demanding for decades, parents, we need more parental involvement. And now parents are like, hi, we're here. We'd really like to be involved. And they're all just like, you know what? Back off.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just not safe for your kids. It's just not okay. Parents do not have a right to be involved.
And
in
we
that.
all know why.
Leftists
yeah.
don't have kids, they have yours.
Right. Like what is it, Melissa Harris Perry? Did you guys see that?
That was an older clip that resurfaced, I
Yeah,
think, but
I'm
it
not
still
sure.
was chilling.
It's
what was it?
crazy.
She was saying basically the kids are not yours. What's
Yeah,
the
she was
exact?
saying kids are not yours; they belong to all of us, and we need to stop thinking that kids belong to
It's
their
like,
parents.
you ever see that
and it's
communist
like,
meme?
who kids belong to their parents, especially when they get hurt or any decisions need to be made. But
you ever
as soon
seen
as
that-
they need to be indoctrinated, then they belong to everybody.
You ever seen that meme where it's like it's the Drake meme where it's my and our and so it shows him like going like that and it'll say like my car and then under it says our car and he's like yeah and so it's like my kids no our kids all right.
Yeah. Takes a village.
I love my favorite one was Our Little Pony. And like they put a sickle and hammer next to it and everything. Yo, these people, I don't know if communist is the right word.
No, it's not.
Look, what people need to understand about fascism and communism is that these were ideologies of the early 1900s. We're in a new digital information age, and what we're experiencing is something different. Maybe you can call it techno-communism or techno-authoritarianism or something, but it needs a new word.
Yeah, James, this is another thing James and Joe were talking about, and I promise I'm not going to keep bringing it up. But watch that episode if you haven't seen it
Great
yet.
episode, yeah.
About, I just got distracted.
Techno-authoritarianism.
About how it's like fascism and communism blended, and it's 21st century. It's new. What Klaus Schwab's trying to do with blending corporations and governments together is basically the definition of Mussolini's fascism. That's what he called it. But it's so different now that they can spy on everything and like cut off bank accounts globally that it's another kind of
It's not necessarily communism. It's not necessarily fascism. It is authoritarian. But the thing about fascism is that it was cultural enforcement. Communism was they just took over and they'd point guns at you. It was much more authoritarian, and they would steal food, and it was just like the whole system was one thing. With fascism, basically, I was reading this article about how the Nazis weren't really socialists, but kind of were, because people often say, oh, it means National Socialist. What would happen is that they would go to a factory and say, are you producing for the war effort? And if the guy at the factory said, no, we're producing for demand, they'd be like, why do you oppose our efforts? And they'd be like, no, we'll do it. Basically cancel culture. The idea that if you didn't fall in line with cultural enforcement, and cultural enforcement is more powerful than government. So that's the thing about, the fascistic method. Now, I guess back then, there was a big dividing ideology. The communists wanted to erase culture. They wanted to purge it and wipe it clean. And the fascists want traditionalism. So what we're seeing today is technoauthoritarian communism, or whatever you'd call it. I don't know.
It all boils down to the evils of centralization and the idea that you could control people from top down. That idea, I think, is one of the most destructive ideas throughout all of human history. And whatever you label it, whatever you call it, it goes against the basic principles of free humanity. And that, of course, is liberty and decentralization. Decentralization right now, if you look at a lot of problems in this world, could solve all of them in an extensive way that would reduce a lot of harm and help a lot of people out, because it would stop the bastardization of power that absolutely corrupts individuals. So I think that's one way that we should start framing it and looking at it, because, to have this larger idea that one person, one king should control your life and your existence has already fallen by the wayside. Now, another idea that hopefully progressively is going to be destroyed is that a president or an autocrat or a corporate head is going to be controlling your life. And I think the more we move away from those ideas, the more we move towards freedom, the more humans will prosper and grow.
I got it. Hear me out. What if you run for president, and when you win, you get 4 years, you can run again for a second term, and if you lose, or you complete a second term, we execute you.
Oh. Interesting.
So then
It's
anybody,
like Logan's Run sequel.
but that means anybody who
without a
wants to
net.
be president knows that they're not going to actually be benefited in the long term. That this is
love
the
it.
end.
I love
You've
it.
decided, because then you get someone who's in their 60s and they're like, I've lived a long life, I have some ideas, and I think this is the end for me. I'm going to do a bunch of things that I think will make everything better for you, and then I'm out.
This is like a Star
I'm
Trek
actually
episode.
kidding. I don't really think we should execute
That's a good
It's
people.
like a Star Trek
as a-
episode where the guy who played Winchester on MASH ends up falling in love with Deanna Troy's mom. Do you remember that one?
That's right. And then
Yeah.
it's a society where at a certain age they just kill
They
you.
just kill you. Yeah. They have a big party.
Or just like take all their money away. When you get out of the White House, you're broke.
You're
Yes,
broke.
again.
Yeah,
can't
actually,
make any money.
maybe what we do is, as soon as you leave any public office, we'll do term limits. So every office will have like a year base. So like in Congress, it's 2 years. So okay, you can run 4 times. The Senate, you can run twice. It's still kind of long. You'll get 12 years. And then the presidency is 2. And once you're done, you lose all your possessions. You get a white jumpsuit and you go to the island.
Oh, yeah.
And then you just live in a community of people who are past civic leaders, and you can never leave, and you've chosen it.
The problem with having 4 2-year term limits is that they'll spend every year running for the next term and waste all that time.
Right. It's like
No, but if you
Congress.
lose, you go to the island.
And
So
on
if you
that
get-
island, Jimmy Carter builds all the houses. So
That's
it's
right.
nice.
No. So Ian, listen. If you run for Congress and win, you're in for 2 years, and then you're like, I'm going to run again, and then you lose, to the island.
But I mean, I don't want them to spend any time while they're in office worrying about a re-election. I want them to be in, run their term, and then be gone.
So two terms.
Like one
no matter what.
8-year term. Is that too much years to give
Oh, that's a
somebody?
good point.
That's a good amount. 8
One
years.
4-year term.
Or maybe
And
2
then-
4-year terms, one
That's what we
re-election.
kind of
Maybe.
But they'll spend 2 years prepping their re-election.
No, but Congress is 2 years.
Congress
so
is 2
giving
years,
Congress
yeah.
4 years and 2 terms, and then once you're done, the island.
You know what I want to point out about?
And there's internet there, so you can play Fortnite, and the kids can
I'm not
talk.
crazy
Another
about the
possibility
island
is
idea.
to elect our pets to be politicians,
Yes.
and I bet
I
they would
nominate
probably
them.
do a better job than all the politicians right now.
Caligula
Stay.
did that with his
Stay.
horse, didn't
Good
he?
boy.
Yes, there you go.
Caligula,
And then
one of the
there's-
crazy Roman emperors,
right, the
inbred
horse.
young gentleman, made his horse a counselor, I believe.
And there's a small town, I
To
believe, in
mock the
Alaska
system.
that elected a cat to be their mayor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When I was thinking about how the Nazis would go to these corporations and be like, "Are you with us?" and then they're like, "No," and then like, "Then you're against us." There's the nuance in society, I think, that's been lost or overlooked lately, that you don't have to be for or against something. You can be neutral, and that's usually you are. 99.999% of the time, people are neutral to the environment. It's only you don't have to take a side and live like that. Make sure you live like that. Don't need to polarize.
You know, so I tweeted a joke about capitalism today. I said capitalism was too successful. We have fat homeless people. Now, but so there's several different layers to this joke, and I felt like it would play well with everyone. For people who are pro-capitalist, they'd be like, wow, even our homeless people are eating too much. For the communists and the left, they're supposed to be like, people who eat too much still don't have homes. Like, it's supposed to play both ways, but it's only the left who gets mad about it. The right just laughs,
Yeah.
and they're like, whatever. And the left is like offended. And I tweeted, it's what I call Bugs Bunnying, where you can make a statement that should be something they'll support, but they'll criticize, so you can prove that they're principally bankrupt. They don't actually believe what they believe. They don't actually care about these things. They just want to hate another group. And I think that proves it. I've made several statements, you know, like I think the Carhartt one, when the Carhartt boycott happened, I said, here's something. If you don't want to get vaccinated, you work at Carhartt, quit. And I got criticized by the left for saying that. And I'm like, shouldn't you agree with me on that? And actually a lot of people tweeted, they were like, but you know, why are you criticizing him? He's right. Just quit then if you don't want to work there. Yeah, well, it's because it's not about principles. It's about being part of a tribe that hates another tribe. Their identity is based on hate. That's it. And there's people on the right who are like that for sure. But it seems to be the rule on the left.
Well, you're in like you said, Twitter. I think the other day, 2% of Americans are on Twitter, and you're
Are
like,
active on Twitter.
and you're like in it. So you're looking at these crazy minority, and it's like,
Oh,
loud.
absolutely.
It's got to be loud for you. Looking at
And
it
what
so
the
much.
algorithms want you to see. Someone left a very good comment saying that the politicians usually do go to an island after they become politicians. And that, of course, is Epstein's Island. But,
Clever.
so shouts out to the person who made
Let
that
me
comment.
let me pull up this story here. We got from the Post Millennial.
Oh my.
Joe Rogan and James Lindsay point out how the left smears everyone they disagree with as alt-right. On the latest episode of the podcast, Joe Rogan spoke with James Lindsay about why so many people are deemed alt-right by the left. And the story's about me. So special thanks to James and Joe, because I don't even think they were necessarily defending me, just pointing out facts, just denying this. What happened was this guy, Josh Zepps, who is a statist propagandist in Australia, who really doesn't like me because I've criticized their country, and he makes things up, and boy, is he triggered by me. He said, you know, oh, Tim Pool says these things and blah, blah, blah. And then a few seconds later goes, so these alt-right guys who are, you know, saying this stuff. And then Joe cuts him off and he's like, Tim Pool's not alt-right. You can't just say that, man. That's not true. And he's like, well, I didn't mean. And then he says, I don't think Majid Nawaz is alt-right. I know him, but Tim Pool. So Joe Rogan's talking to James and they end up bringing me up specifically. And Joe's like, I know Tim very well. He's like a centrist. He was a boots on the ground guy for Vice. And then James like, yeah, he was in Occupy. So this is what I think is it shows the lies. It's obvious they're lying. One of the most powerful media shows in the world, Joe Rogan's show, is outright just with no remorse calling out the lies. I think this is a good example of the narrative is breaking before our eyes.
You know what
and I know there's a lot of reasons why we said the narrative is breaking, but here's another really good one. It involves me, so obviously I wanted to highlight it and say thank you to Joe for just being honest and talking about, you know, my views and everything. But who's going to believe this anymore?
Well, I was thinking maybe this is alt-right in the sense that it's alternative to the polarized right. It's more of a center.
Alt-right means white nationalists.
That's the problem with
specifically.
That's the problem with the phrase. It shouldn't mean that it's further right than people on the right. It's just an alternative to weird polarized politics.
That's literally not the case.
It just crossed my mind a couple weeks ago.
The Associated
I don't know
Press
why.
put out a statement years ago saying the alt-right group that coined the term specifically referenced white nationalist ideology. That's where the term came from. That's what it represents. That's why the left will try to passively smear everyone as alt-right, so they can then add to your Wikipedia page something like Ian's been called alt-right. Then another outlet will say many news organizations have noted that Ian, comma, who's considered alt-right, comma, and then eventually they can just say Ian is alt-right. Then they can then say Ian is a white nationalist and put it on your Wikipedia page. That's the game they play. It's not working anymore. It's falling apart because people are getting sick and tired of it, and they're not scared to call out the bunk media. And you know what it is? As the media ratings collapse, people are getting less scared of being smeared because they're irrelevant.
But it's also a way to shut you up. They can't engage you with your ideas. So, like if someone said, "I don't want open borders," well, then you're racist because you don't like Mexican people. But no, because I there's a reason why I don't think this is effective. It's racist, sexist, it's all the things. It's to shut us up because they don't want to have this debate. And people on the left they're not good at debating because they don't get those other ideas coming at them. If you're on the right, you get all the ideas. You watch Colbert, you watch The Culture, you read the news. You're experiencing, even by default, all these different concepts, and you're able to kind of, work with them, talk about them, debate them. But if you're on the left, you're in this bubble area, and you can't debate, so you have to smear.
Well, shout out to Hunter Avalone for having come on this show a while back because, I respect him for coming on the show, and he was having, traditional liberal views, but man, don't come on a show unprepared and be arrogant about it. That's what I would say. So, the issue with him was he brought up he brought up Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, Ukraine, Burisma, and he didn't know anything about it. So when I said Joe Biden did engage in a quid pro quo, a corruption in Ukraine to empower his son and make money for his family, and Hunter was like, that's not true. I was like, bro, I can name every person. I've read the reports. I've read Ukrainian news. I've read Russian news. I've read Matt Taibbi's reporting. I have dug through that to a great deal. And I asked him, do you know the name of the guy who started Burisma? And he was like, no. And I'm like, okay, look, with all due respect, why would you step up and claim you know something, and then when I ask you a simple question, you outright say, I don't know anything about it? It's a weird arrogance that exists. But
Joe
like you
Biden
said,
bragged about it.
But
bragged about the
they
quid
don't
pro quo.
they don't know any of this because they don't actually have these debates. So when someone comes into a debate and their first experience with this is, I remember what Hassan said. He said it's not true. And then I'm like, I actually can pull up all of the facts and show you. Do you want to see the Ukrainian news outlets talking about this guy fleeing the country? No, they don't read the news. They don't. They listen to each other, and they have a big circle of people who are jerks. We try to keep it family friendly. So.
I respect that.
They're very happy in that circle, but they're also completely
Satisfied.
out of touch.
They're on that island.
To the outside. Yeah, that's probably what happens on that island, to be completely honest with you.
But Joe Biden bragged about that. I mean, can we not forget that?
It's amazing that Joe Biden
was like thrilled
literally,
about it.
He's like, I did it. I had a quid pro quo. And the media's like, no, he didn't.
Right.
That's you got to be a special kind of either stupid or deceptive to be going online claiming it never happened when we all watched the video of Joe Biden doing it. And Joe Biden's so dumb, he bragged about it.
I think the scariest thing for me about media bias today is that we can see things or hear things in their context, and the media will say, no, it didn't happen. That scares me to death. It really scares me.
Well, it used to scare me. Now I just laugh about it.
But people believe it, though. That's the thing that really upsets me.
But their ratings are in the gutter. Yeah. So I know their ratings are still high. Colbert gets like 3 million viewers or whatever. I just really loved when Joe Biden was doing the press conference and they were like, if you don't pass these voter reform bills, what do you think's going to happen? Joe's like, well, there's a very good chance it could be illegitimate. And then Jen Psaki comes out the next day. No, actually, he didn't say that.
Right.
What he said was Trump is the problem.
Right.
It reminds me of when that episode of Family Guy where Lois Griffin is running for office and she gets up to the podium and she goes, 9/11, and they go, yeah, start clapping and cheering. And then they're like, how would you deal with the economy? And she goes, 9/11, yeah, and they'll start clapping and cheering.
She stole that from Rudy Giuliani. That's not fair.
Yeah.
And I'm reminded of the Orwell quote that we talked about on the show previously before that says, quote, the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. And there's a lot of truth to that, especially when you see them call out stuff that clearly does happen, that clearly is a reality, and them saying, no, this never happened. Don't look at the evidence. Don't question it. If you do, you're a bad person. You're a part of the alt-right. You're, a homophobic,
that means
racist,
you're a white
destructive
nationalist.
person.
Also, if it does turn out that the GOP takes a lot of extra seats or whatever in the 2022 in the midterms, and the Democrats then start saying that the election was illegitimate, we're going to be able to look back on this moment and be like, you said it wouldn't be. Now what are you talking about? It's just such a little trap for them.
I want to give a special shout out to the disinformation cycle. It starts with the New York Times reporting that Ukrainians were interfering in the U.S. election to benefit Hillary Clinton. That it was actually, let me be very careful and precise. It was Politico that reported this. It was the New York Times that also reported that a Ukrainian court had found that certain interests in Ukraine, certain individuals were engaged in this behavior. And then it comes to Ted Cruz, who appears on Meet the Press, and he's asked by who's the guy Meet the Press? What's his face?
The guy
Chuck Todd?
Is it Chuck
Yeah, I
Todd?
think so.
Is it Chuck Todd? I don't know. He's
Chuck
asked,
Todd? Chuck
do you really believe that Ukraine interfered in the election? And Ted Cruz is like, Politico and the New York Times reported they did. And then you hear one of the producers at MSNBC start laughing, or NBC just start laughing. And then I'm just like, Ted Cruz cited mainstream news and they laugh at him like he's wrong because they don't read the news. Then our good friend David Pakman does a segment about it where he's like, I can't believe how dumb Ted Cruz is. They're laughing at him. And I'm like, David, did you Google the stories? They're real. But they don't read the news. So they're like, those of us that read the news, like on this show, we have an eclectic bunch of people of varying political beliefs, and we read the news. So we kind of agree on what some of the basic facts are, like many of them. And then we disagree on policy positions, but that's just, it's right wing. It's just shuffle everyone into the alt-right bucket if you read the news.
Well, we read the same news. That's the problem. Is there's lots of news out there that I don't read that never comes up on this show or is even orbited on this show because it's just it seems fake. It seems like media narrative.
No,
I don't know. I read not yesterday morning because I had food poisoning, but most mornings I read at least the headlines of pretty much everything.
What's your process like?
Real quick,
So,
just
I can tell you.
Just put a pin real quick because I want to mention we've cited NPR, we've cited NJ.com, we've cited so we've hinted at Mother Jones. We've hinted at Reuters. Yo, we use establishment press on this show. We just fact check these stories. Like the other day, I specifically pointed out that I used NPR on purpose for one source. I used CNN on purpose. If I can fact check what CNN says and find it to be true, I'll use them as a source to say, okay, not tell me CNN's wrong. This is one of the funniest things. I was accused of peddling misinformation about the election because I quoted CNN. That's the point. So I could be like, wow, CNN's fake news, I guess. But anyway, sorry.
No, I check everything in the morning. I check Fox, I check NPR, I check the New York Times and Washington Post, check Daily Wire. I check through everything we ran overnight at the Post Millennial that I didn't see.
Do you go website to website or do you look at it through a portal like Twitter?
Honestly, I have it on my phone.
Oh, cool.
And so I just check everything.
And
I always check Reuters.
My reporting on Ukraine and everything I read, Politico reported that Ukrainians did interfere in the election, and the New York Times ruled a court in Ukraine had found that to be true as well. That's the New York Times and Politico. I'm not cherry picking my news sources. I actually look for counterpoints. There aren't any. So I went to Ukraine and I hit up a source I had in Ukraine and said, can you investigate this from local news sources? And then when I reported on it, I said, I don't know the credibility of these outlets. It's a local Ukrainian outlet I'm not familiar with, but this is what they reported. It backs up what these national outlets, Politico and the New York Times, have said. So for me, for everybody here, I think the issue for us is that we actually fact check the stories. So we have an understanding of reality. But when Chuck Todd on Meet the Press laughs at Ted Cruz, or his producers do, because Ted Cruz cited the New York Times, that's a special level of stupid coming out of NBC.
It's interesting that
and very on brand.
to think that a corporation would feed you a little bit of falsity, get you to believe it, and then ridicule you for believing it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's been a lot of crazy news stories of them just absolutely inverting reality to what is just totally the complete opposite.
2 seconds to pull that up.
Exactly. And it's not that hard to fact check. It's not that hard to look at sources. It's not that hard to get a different side of the story. It's becoming more and more difficult, especially when it comes to using Google. And I think they're catching on to that. But we have an opportunity in our life where we have this small window that's closing where we could look up anything at any moment and find out exactly what we want about it. That window, I believe, is closing. It's still here. We should still use it as much as we can.
2 seconds. I can pull up these stories from Politico and the New York Times. Mainstream establishment outlets talking about this very fact that NBC, their talking heads, make fun of Ted Cruz for. There's a lot of things you can make fun of Ted Cruz for, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't wrong on the facts. So when pundits like David Pakman go on his show and he laughs at Ted Cruz for being right, I'm just like, I messaged David and I was like, hey, like, here's the link to the stories, bro. Like, you just had to Google it. I don't understand why you're laughing at Ted Cruz or mocking him for this.
There's something about this story, this Biden-Ukrainian scandal that's a little vague, that makes me tired whenever it comes up. Like, I feel like it requires more glucose to process the information for some reason. I don't know why.
I know what you mean. It does kind of feel that way. It's like,
It's
more of
layered.
this,
It's
more
complicated.
of
It's
this
not
Ukraine
a.
thing.
Certain stories are just like a punch to the face. This one, it's more.
Requires
You got to
work.
dig in.
Yo, to explain this story to my friend's dad, I was like, have a seat, sir.
List of characters.
Because what happens is you can start slow and let them ask you questions. Like, a video emerged of Joe Biden bragging about engaging in a quid pro quo where he would withhold $1 billion in U.S. aid to Ukraine unless they fired a prosecutor.
That's extortion, right?
Well, you can call it whatever you want. It's illegal.
Okay.
That Joe Biden doesn't have the authority to stop something that was
it's
passed
not.
by
It's not
Congress.
extortion if the president does it,
Well,
right?
No,
And
but
the,
he wasn't president at the time. This was back when he was vice
He
president.
was vice president.
And the vice president and president can't go and say, I am going to personally halt an act of Congress. So they accused Trump of doing that, when in fact Joe Biden literally did it.
And
And
Joe
we know
Biden-
he did
yeah.
it. And he bragged about it. And then the media comes out and says, Joe Biden never did that.
And he wanted the prosecutor fired because the prosecutor was investigating Burisma, where his son was a chair, was like on the board there.
And Viktor Shokin, the prosecutor in Ukraine who got fired, signed a sworn affidavit saying the president came to me and said, Joe Biden wants you fired because you're investigating Burisma.
Wow.
Matt Taibbi
Yeah.
reported this.
Well,
and he
and-
reported there were a dozen plus investigations from the prosecutor into Burisma every step of the way. There have been sycophantic establishment journalists who have been like, well, Burisma wasn't even under investigation. And then journalists are like, here's the investigations.
Yeah.
Well, but those were not about...
What were they investigating them for?
So Mykola Zlochevsky is just the general surface answer is corruption, kickbacks, forged documents, just you name it. When it comes to trying to steamroll things through, my personal view of this, after everything I've read, walking the story back to explain it to like my friend's dad, it's the Qatar-Turkey pipeline. It's trying to get natural gas into Europe, trying to compete with Russia and the Gazprom natural gas monopoly. It's around 20% that goes into Europe comes from Gazprom through Ukraine. So U.S. interests, NATO, Western allies wanted to get an alternative source of fuel to lower the prices. They needed a means to do it. So they prop up this company. They have a guy who engages in a little, behind the scenes to make it work faster. There's like a CIA director who's on the board along with Hunter Biden, who has no business being on the board. And in the era of the internet, we can learn these things. They got really mad it was happening. Joe Biden's a moron and bragged about it. And all of a sudden, it looks like you can see at least the surface of what they were trying to do with Syria, with Turkey, with Iraq, with Iran, with Ukraine, what they're still trying to do with Ukraine. Trump really messed all those plans up. Because Trump, I just think, didn't care about their plans, saw the video of Joe Biden engaging in what appeared to be illegal activity and is illegal activity, and then called the president of Ukraine and said, I saw this video. This is literally happened. He's like, I saw this video of Joe Biden saying he was going to do this. Can you look into that for me? And then they were like, impeach him. We got to impeach him now. And then they handcrafted this insane story about Trump quid pro quo, which was actually Joe Biden. Here's the best part. People on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter who named the CIA guy, and don't say his name, please, they got all their content deleted.
Amazing.
I had videos deleted for telling the story. I made a post. You post any of these stories and they would disappear without warning. It was so obvious what they were doing.
I figured out why it has been confusing me is because they've been blaming Trump for the same thing that Biden did.
Yes.
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 Exactly.
That's correct.
Amazing. Watching it happen, like being in the news. And it's like Joe Biden walks over and kicks a dog. And then the media goes, breaking news, Trump kicked a dog. And I'm like,
Wait a minute.
but what?
Well, and now,
he did
and
literally
now,
kick the dog.
and now Biden is definitely going to go to war for Ukraine.
Yeah,
With
I know,
that.
it's
Doesn't
amazing.
look like it.
You know,
It's usually
Like-
for oil, for a resource if it's
Trump
a war.
Trump wasn't supposed to win. Trump was not supposed to win. I was in Ukraine at the Maidan protests when all this was erupting, when Yanukovych got ousted, when Ukraine was in that turmoil period. And it was that Western forces, and this is just my opinion as one person who covered a little bit of it, and I'm probably wrong on a lot of this, but my view was, obviously, the West wanted to get Ukraine under the fold. They want to get cheaper gas into Europe. That was part of the plan. Russia doesn't want that to happen. It's against their interests. Syria is allied with Russia. This whole region is embroiled in this conflict. Trump gets elected. Everything stops. Syria, he's trying to withdraw our troops from Syria. They won't let him. They lie about it. Trump is like, why do I care about Ukraine? Just give him some weapons and be done with it. Biden gets back in and all of a sudden, oh no. It's like the amazing thing is after Trump got elected, the whole Ukraine civil war narrative stops. and just like goes off the news cycle. Biden gets back in, and here we are, Ukrainian civil war all over again.
It's all over. Yeah, it's back.
Amazing.
Well, they were still fighting between in Ukraine between some Russian forces and the separatists.
Yes, but I went there.
But it was still at a standstill compared to of how hot it was comparatively to when John McCain was there and how.
And I went to Ukraine. I think I went there. It may have been just before Trump got elected, and in this period, my sources on the ground, just locals, they're not like experts, said the fighting had mostly subsided and they were no longer, they said, don't call it a civil war. That pisses people off. And I was like, when I was here and when I left, it escalated to the point where the Eastern separatists, no. It's separatist conflict and it's like, it's anti-government extremism. I'm like, oh, okay. And then for years, we barely hear anything about it. Joe Biden gets in and all of a sudden we're being told Russia's about to invade Ukraine. Okay, dude.
Yeah, they were going at Putin until Trump got elected. Then they were going at Trump for being connected to Putin. Then Trump left. Now they're going back at Putin. This whole boogeyman thing is so annoying.
Well, one of the things is you've got the bureaucratic state, the intelligence agencies. They have plans that exist well beyond.
Yeah, I think they're
just
playing the
one
100-year game as well as the CCP. I think they're both playing the 100-year game.
Trump was not supposed to win. When Trump got in office, all of a sudden their plans were completely disrupted. So anyway, this all started because I obsess over this stuff because this was one of the most egregious things that's ever happened in American history. A president was impeached over a lie to maintain bureaucratic policies that existed before he got in office. And it just shows you that the emperor has no clothes. No one's playing by the rules anymore. And any semblance of if you think the president has real power, you underestimate the intelligence agencies and the bureaucratic state. That's what we can see here. That beyond the president, there's a reason why Trump was jammed up the entirety of his first term, because Trump was not supposed to be the guy to win, and he wanted to shore up our borders. He wanted to bring the troops home. He wanted to go America first, build up our factories, and he did not want to play that international game, and they got mad about it. So everything, they accused him of working with Russia, which was a lie. Then they did the impeachment. Then they did the other impeachment, and now they're trying to prosecute him over fraud in New York so he can't run for office. It's crazy.
I have a different kind of perspective, but we don't have to dive into all of that. But there was a bull in the China shop aspect to the Trump presidency that does deserve to be recognized, because I think even Donald Trump himself was surprised when he won the election. He looked
surprised.
he looked like he was like, wait, this is not supposed to happen. What's going on here? And whether it was underprepared or whether it was people stopping him, there was an internal conflict that was clearly visible, whether it was him and the CIA, him saying, I'm definitely going to release those JFK files no matter what, the CIA saying no, and those documents never came out. There was something happening behind the scenes, and there's probably way more things that happened that would shock us if we really knew what was happening behind the true layers of power. So it's interesting. I wish I could talk to Trump. I wish we could ask him more questions, but there's so many different ways that the United States government is run that we still don't fully understand. But the bureaucrats, the supposed deep state, the people that are in there, no matter who the president is, the intelligence agencies, they have a lot more power than we think.
You know, that Kennedy assassination was like the first example of citizen journalism. Maybe not the first, but on video. There's some random guy watching the parade and caught that assassination. And that all the evidence from all the people like, hey, maybe it isn't what we thought it was, comes from that video of where you see him get hit.
Sometimes you just need a little Alex Jones.
Yep.
When he yells that an alien intelligence has taken over and is controlling everybody, you can sit back with a nice fire going on a rainy day and just hear the angry rants of Alex Jones and be like, it actually is kind of relaxing because it makes everything feel like when he yelled and slammed the table and talked about the alien intelligence taking over, it made me laugh. It kind of like brought levity to the situation. I'm not trying to say that to be mean or like to disrespect Alex or anything like that, but it was like, my worldview is corporatist, authoritarian, despotic individuals who lie, cheat, and steal. And when Alex brings up the aliens, it kind of makes me feel like, maybe there's something more interesting to life, and it's fun to hear the fanciful ideas and the crazy.
I think for sure that this is part of a process that's greater than we can perceive. The corruption that's bubbling, the humans needing to eat food to survive, so we're constantly aggressing on each other for food.
Bugs.
Yes.
We need bugs to survive.
Yeah. Now, I don't know what Alex was talking about specifically. I don't know if he was talking about UFOs coming from outer space or artificial intelligence. But if he was talking about artificial intelligence, there is an argument to make here that there is a probability that has happened in some way.
I just mean to say that sometimes there's like, when we constantly hear about corrupt world leaders, and then someone tells you a fancy story, it kind of breaks that
Like humor serves a purpose in our
yeah,
culture.
you know what I mean?
And now it's kind of under
Maybe
attack, so.
life is more interesting than just this really awful corruption we experience. And
It definitely is, and it's what you make it.
I was thinking about why it is. I can't remember what show I was watching. I think I was watching the Teen Titans live action show, and I was like, what's with all these superhero movies and shows that become really, really popular?
How was the live action? I only ever watched the cartoon.
I don't know. I barely watch. I just it's on in the background, to be honest. It's like it's gory. DC really loves just be extremely brutal. But I was thinking about something. The reality of superhero movies is very capitalistic, and I guess you'd call it colloquially far right. And the world that we live in is actually like very communist when it comes to this. What I mean by that is, I'm like watching this cartoon, Young Justice, because I'm watching HBO Max basically. And one of the heroes has a laser arm, like his arm turns into a laser gun. And I was like, that's just a kid with a gun going around shooting people. Like, he's not a superhero. They literally just gave some 16-year-old kid a gun, and he goes around and he's like, I'm a hero, and he's like blasting lasers at people. And I was like, in the real world, anyone can have a gun. I mean, you're not supposed to, but that's why we don't have that stuff. Like, power is much more distributed. So anyway, I bring that up because in the real world, there's corruption at every level, like in almost everywhere to varying degrees. And there is no superhero who's going to save the day and end all of this. That's why when, Alex Jones says that the real enemy is like an alien intelligence, it makes it feel like we're all in this together up against the true evil. It's just unfortunately not true. Humans are against humans.
When I was a kid, I remember, well, not a kid, when I was like in my 20s, I knew all these people who were claiming that there was actually a war going on between angels and demons in this other sphere. And that, we could like sort of tap into that other war. And I was like, wow, you guys have way better drugs than me. What's going on? How is this?
Yeah, I think of demons as like energy patterns that can be catalyzed.
I have no idea what this is about, but a lot of people I knew were like really into this.
With how crazy the universe is, they might be right.
We talk about
who
like
knows what's going on?
demons and angels, and like a demon is like a pattern of behavior. Like the demon is in you now because you're acting on this urge. Like something catalyzes this behavior, and we call it a demon. But that might be coming from somewhere far away, like beamed into our, like vibrating our neurons, so we think it. Whereas an angel's more like it just seems to need help.
This is why DMT is such an amazing conversation, and why I think so many people enjoy it. Joe Rogan talks about it a lot. I mean, we every so often bring it up, but because when people talk about this veil and machine elves, it makes everyone kind of feel like there's something else out there, that this world we experience with all the good and all the bad isn't just it. Because, Ian, you randomly brought up, like, why am I alive? And that's, like, certainly something people experience all the time, that question, that existential question. And so when people hear stories about grand villains, they love it. Be it Antifa fighting the fascists, or Alex Jones fighting the alien intelligence, or people wanting to know more about DMT or angels and demons. There's got to be something else that drives us.
I definitely do believe that there is some kind of spiritual war out there. I don't want to kind of drudge on about my own personal beliefs, but I think to say that everything's just an accident and a mistake, I think that's something that, from my perspective, isn't true. Might be a little bit of a naive thinking. I think there's a lot more to this world, especially energetically, that we don't understand yet. I don't think we should understand it. But when it comes to consciousness and dimensions, I think we're only scratching the surface here, even just with this conversation.
Well, of course we are. Of course we're only scratching the surface. We've been scratching the same surface for the entire history of humanity. This is why we have religion. We want to know what's bigger than ourselves. We want to know where we come from and why. Of course we do. At the point when we stop asking that question, we stop being human.
Yeah, I get confused. I think a lot of confusion comes from like it's a lot of things going on at once. There's the carnal need to eat and keep this body healthy. So there's this chaos as a result. But then there's like this benevolent, like energy intelligence that doesn't need food. It's just there, like love. It's telling you love and communicate. But then you're countering that with your body that's like consume, destroy. I must take its energy to survive. So
this is
I have no idea what you're saying.
Yeah, we'll watch the video again later and you'll see it again.
This is the question, right? The question is, what does the body rule the mind, or does the mind rule the body? This is the question.
So where are your friends today? The ones who gave you that information.
And Morrissey both asked those questions. What?
Where are your friends? When you were in 20s, you heard this conversation. Where are they today?
Oh, mostly they're dead. Sorry.
Oh, Christian,
unhappy.
What do you think about?
Dark.
What do you think about this spiritual battle?
I don't think about it that much. I think my life is so frantic right now. I've got 2 kids. My wife was battling cancer last year. I work 7 days a week. I've got so much going on. I work all the time. I don't have time for meatier themes like this, honestly.
Well, let me
when you look at your
in
kids'
that capacity,
eyes,
well,
do you see,
let
like-
me ask to kind of build upon that. Do you guys think when Alex Jones says demons, he literally means like demonic energy, or does he mean like evil people who are bad people? You know what I mean?
Is there a difference?
I think he means energy.
Well, no, yeah, like he could literally think that there's demons from hell coming through the veil and latching onto people, or he could be saying that these people are demons metaphorically, like they're just evil.
I think it's like energy tickling the amygdala.
I don't want to be speaking for someone else.
Yeah, I mean, that
No, I'm saying like, how do you interpret it?
That's what
I think both could be true. Absolutely.
Demons from the other realm.
When it comes to energy, there's a lot of, crazy things once you start studying and understanding it, dimensions and realities, and especially when it comes to, the spirit molecule, there's so much really to have this personal journey that's kind of even weird to talk about, because people are going to be looking at you strange with what you actually believe in. But I think everyone has their own journey in life and has their own understanding of it, and I think the process of them finding out is something that's really amazing and beautiful, and I think even speaking and telling people what I believe in kind of ruins that.
It's so deeply personal, too.
Exactly.
But doesn't that mean we should talk about it?
Yeah.
Well,
we should talk about these
that's
things.
just my own personal feelings on it.
I think that it's very easy for human beings to become the monster, to dehumanize themselves, to look around and say like, I'm better than this person, or I get to do this horrible thing because I have good reasons to do the horrible thing, But I think that there probably is evil in the world. I don't like to think that there is, but I tend to be an optimist. I tend to look at the good in every person. When I interact with a person, I try and meet them where they stand and
I think
look for the
Fauci
good
is
in
evil.
them.
I mean, I think if you live for the last 2 years and don't think there's evil in the world, I don't know what you're smoking. I'll take some.
That's a very good point.
I've gotten so disappointed with people, with my country, with our leaders, with other nations. I can't wrap my head around what's going on right now.
Yeah. They're evil.
There's a thing where people snap. I don't know if you guys ever see someone snap before, where they're like getting riled up, and then all of a sudden they just like it's like this weird thing where it's almost not human. It's like the animal takes over.
So you're saying like
Not necessarily
aliens
evil, but
are taking over
definitely
people's
dangerous.
bodies. Body snatchers.
I had some weird experiences in my life that I don't even want to talk about right now. But there are sociopaths, right? The most amount of sociopaths per capita are in Washington, D.C. That makes a lot of sense to me. And when you look at the science of sociopaths, it explains a lot of the behavior that you see kind of exemplified in a lot of positions of power where naturally sociopaths try to get to. So understanding it from that perspective is also one way to kind of answer the question of why these people do what they do, and whether it's demonic evil or just psychological breakdowns of people's mental health. There's a lot of different possibilities out there, but I think the spirit world is something that does exist and does have a far greater impact than we even understand it to.
I've been studying the demons from the Bible, the Christian Bible, from this thing called the Ars Goetia, which is like King Solomon would communicate with demons through a ring, and it's like you look at these demons, and they're all like, it's called the Ars Goetia. If you want to check,
so it's not actually in the actual Bible.
I don't know. No. This is something that was written later about the
totally
demons.
Not in there.
But it's like Baal the demon, and it's about like a bunch. They're all like kings and dukes and earls and presidents and stuff. And I started thinking, I think these were real people, and that
King Solomon was a real person.
Yeah, for sure. And that I think the demons, like the archangels, Michael and all these archangels, were real people, and the demons were real. And there was a war, and the winner wrote the history book and wrote them and demonized them and said that land that they all lived in is called hell. And they remember it being all fiery and flaming because they probably scorched earth.
I have no idea what this is.
But the idea of a demon isn't like a person that you got to be afraid of. It's more of a field or like an energy pattern that can kind of co-opt your body.
I was told that
or is it human beings who have taken that leap into pure evil, which I think happens.
I've been told that when you take DMT, you will meet demons and they'll offer you secrets and knowledge, and all you got to do is sign the deal. And when I asked
I was there for that conversation. I remember that.
I asked some of these people, "What is that deal? What is it?" And they're like, "Just the deal." And I'm like, "What are you giving up in exchange for the knowledge?" Nothing. It's just they want to share. They tell you, "We're going to help you and we're going to give you this information. Don't you want to be free?" And that people are told to reject the deal because they're going to, and then the demons are like, the only reason you would say no to this is because you're a slave and you're brainwashed. You got to trust me. I'm good for you and I'm going to make your life better. And so the idea is from a lot of people that these demons are giving global elites access to information. Now, this is what Alex Jones says. They're getting like privy to information or whatever from the demons. I think that's just, when you do drugs, you believe crazy things.
Nikola
But
Tesla,
this is not, I mean, this is Jesus in the desert, right?
Yes,
so when
it
Jesus
is.
goes out into the desert and Satan offers him everything he could possibly ever want, and Jesus turns it down.
But-
he turns it down over and over again.
But what was he like? What was he offering him? I'm not
He
familiar-
offered him.
Control.
He offered him power, like basically to be the king. He offered him. I mean, we could probably find it,
Yeah.
but that's the one that I remember. He offered him food because he was starving out
Right,
there in the desert
40
because he
days.
was fasting for 40 days. Power. He offered him. Like probably. Maybe I'm making this up, but he probably offered him like sexual stuff. Whatever.
I don't
it
know
is.
if that would work
Am
on
I
Jesus, to
making
be
that up?
honest.
No, it was just everything he wanted.
But it was like anything,
Yeah.
like offering, like basically the idea was that Satan tried to ply Jesus with anything he could come up with that Jesus might want, and it didn't work. And Jesus eventually went back and faced his fate, which was devastating and very excruciating for him. And he felt abandoned by God and everything else, and it was terrible. But I think that's, I think that that's such an amazing moment. It's part of why Lent is my favorite season in the Catholic calendar. It's because when you look at everything and you say to yourself, I am nothing, I am dust. I'm and you have to give up of yourself in order to be closer to God, I think.
Right.
What do you think, Tim? What's your understanding of it?
Of what?
Demons, or
Bro, I don't know.
or energetic forces.
That's why I just like talking about all this crazy stuff. And that's why, Michael Malice and Alex Jones talking about DMT I find so fascinating.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, tell me your experience. I want to learn as much as I can about this. What really fascinates me about DMT is the shared experiences that people have reported when taking it,
Yeah.
which indicates that's a control that shows there may be something truly there. And look, man, I would love to know the answers to the great questions. I don't know if it's possible because we are like these tiny little specks.
It's not at all possible. And
Yeah.
of course it's not possible to
The
know
universe is so
everything.
massive.
It seems to have something to do with the double 64 tetrahedron and the double torus energy pattern that's produced. Nassim Harameyn's done a lot of geometric mathematics to produce. I think it's this shape. This is a two-dimensional representation of this 64 tetrahedron, and that life has. I don't know if there's a point to it, but it seems to be like a shape that you see the Fibonacci sequence emerge out of this shape a lot of
That's
times.
a cool sequence. That
And you start
Fibonacci
seeing
thing.
it under particular substances.
The
as
golden
well.
ratio?
Yeah, under
Yeah.
DMT, people see
Well,
like
not just
Aztec patterns
DMT,
and
but
stuff.
like mushrooms as well.
What is DMT from? Like, what's its
It's in your
sourced?
brain. It's secreted when you dream, and when you're born, it's dumped
So
into
when
your
you're
brain.
taking
When you're a
DMT,
child,
you're taking brain juice.
No, you're not taking brain juice. It's
like the way you
it's
phrased
it's in our natural environment. A lot of living things have them, and you can
Right.
procure it. And
So
pretty
where does
much,
it come from?
Plants.
Okay.
So
Your
it-
adrenal gland, right? or is it pituitary gland?
I don't know. Yeah.
I'm,
Let's
your
look it up.
third eye.
let's
I
let's
know.
double check.
Third
Let's make
eye.
sure. Let's make sure we
Cross
get
your third
everything
eye,
right
that's
here
you
because I want to
can't
be
tell.
Yeah, I
direct
mean,
and
I've
honest
taken
about
a
it.
lot
But
of
you
drugs, but
secrete
I've never
you
taken
secrete
DMT.
DMT naturally inside of your brain every time you dream.
Yeah.
And when you're born, up into a certain age of I think about 7, your brain is filled with it. This is why children have a vivid imagination, and that's why they say that they see creatures and monsters and entities, ghosts especially. And then when you die, it's rushed into your brain. So, this is something that, of course, should take people on their own individual investigative journeys. They should study this. Some people are like, just do DMT. And
Yo,
I
look
would
at
not
this.
do that. I would
Look at his
say
image.
people
Oh, wow.
need to
Whoa.
study and be respectful
I-
of this and do their research and homework. And
I'd freak out if I saw something like this coming at me,
That
you
looks
know?
like a demon to me.
Well, that's what I see when I look at you.
Oh my gosh.
Normally, is that not?
that's because Ian's always...
This DMT stands for dimethyltryptamine, and apparently it's responsible for like this waking dream state. You know, the people are like, life is a dream. Why are these weird? Like maybe we are dreaming right now.
Oh, I used to have that I used to have all kinds of weird things that I saw. That's a totally different conversation that we don't even have.
Yeah, they're doing what's called extended state DMT experiments now. I think in England or somewhere in Great Britain, and they're putting people in because people are reporting seeing things like this, and they're coming out, and a lot of people are having similar experiences, so they want to know why. So, but it's such a quick 15-minute experience if people smoke it, that they're trying to do it in a lab under an environment where you can go in on like an IV drip of it and stay in for like hours at a time. And
There's no
experience
puppies involved with this, is it?
I don't know yet.
No.
I don't know.
There's no Dr. Fauci
maybe
involved
investigate
here.
that.
Hey, let's be real though. You know, when it comes to experimentation, I'd be willing to bet that tons of governments around the world have kidnapped humans and trafficked them for the purpose of experimentation.
Oh,
Yeah,
for
the
sure.
CIA.
Yeah.
They did it with LSD. Openly, willingly, to the point
I mean, wasn't
where,
Fauci experimenting on orphans?
yes, and other small animals
Wasn't
and creatures.
ecstasy created to help Swedish elderly people do their exercises?
Oh, I don't know.
What is that? What it was for?
How
Don't
weird.
am I remembering something weird?
I don't
It was
know.
like given to people in old folks' homes in Scandinavia so that they would do their exercises.
That
It
sounds
does work
crazy.
for
I,
exercise.
I feel like I remember that.
I took
from
it once
somewhere.
and worked out really hard, and the next day I didn't have like the serotonin depletion. I felt it tingling in my muscles for like 2 days afterwards, and I felt phenomenal the next day.
But just like with anything, please be careful. Please do your own homework. Please do your own research. Please
Don't
get
break the
testing
law.
kits.
Yeah, don't break
Yeah.
the
Don't
law.
believe, you know, whatever you do. There's a lot of fentanyl also interlaced
Yeah.
with a lot of the Molly out there. There's been a lot of people hurt by this very severely. So just, again, I can't stress
That's
this
why you
enough.
say
whether
no to
it's-
drugs and you don't break the law.
That's
Yeah,
right.
whatever it is. Do your
In
own
a
homework,
lab
do your own
setting
research.
where they're doing extended state DMT,
Right.
this is where we're going to find better answers. Because some dude in his living room who's like, yo, I talked to a giant green elf, man.
Okay.
I'm going to be like, yeah. I knew this guy when I was younger, and he was like, dude, I'm telling you, aliens are real because I've seen them. And then I was like, for real? And I was like 16. He's like, yeah, dude. I went outside. I was at my friend's house, and I was leaving, and it was late at night. And I go into the alley, and all of a sudden a spaceship comes overhead. Like everybody was inside. It was late at night, but I'm telling you, dude, I saw this with my own eyes. And I was like, wow. So what happened? He's like, well, me and my friends, because we've been doing tons of drugs. Like, and then I went, oh, get out of here, dude. I was like, you know what? All of a sudden, I'm just like, I was all excited for some story. And then, like, you know, Ian, you told the story about the wolf. You're on the roof.
That was crazy.
And then you're like, I was high.
It was.
Okay, dude, your story's not true.
Well, that's like when
was
Homer
true.
Simpson. That's like your Homer Simpson thing, right?
Yeah, it was
Didn't
only
he-
THC, which when you talk about high and drugs, you got to be careful because some of them it's like I think oregano oil can get you high in the strong enough dose. So you got to be careful with
Well, you
what
just
that
don't-
even means.
You know,
getting
you
Leave it
can
high.
also
leave it
you
to a
can also
lab.
just psych yourself out like crazy. Like you can always psych yourself out and see weird stuff and like
and like
have wild
I-
ideas.
amphetamines.
The placebo
and
effect is one of the most
stimulants, that stuff's
trippiest
dangerous.
scientific effects that also is worth talking about.
Tryptamines.
No, the placebo
Placebo
effect.
effect, yeah.
Because you believe in something, you
So
could
interesting.
manifest and create something. So just by your belief system. So
Is that
you-
like a rudimentary manifestation? Like people on the placebo effect actually get better in some circumstances?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so it's people manifesting their
100%.
health?
Exactly. So just understanding those basic principles and laws when you implement them with other things in your existence, this is also something worth considering talking about, especially when you have people consuming carefully curated social media.
Let me-
The boob tube, the CNN. Imagine your consciousness and your thought process being affected in such an effect, just like the placebo can have an effect.
I'd just like to say
So you gotta be
that I
careful.
have not heard the term the boob tube in really quite
That's right.
Great.
That's what I call
Luke-
the
that's old
corporate
school.
media.
Luke and I have a mutual friend, and I was going to visit him, and he lives in L.A. And L.A. parking is a nightmare in this area, right? And so I'm close to his house, and I call him. I'm like, hey, I'm here. You know, where can I park? And he goes, oh, bro, just manifest a spot. And I'm dead serious.
In
Robbie,
LA?
Yeah, shouts out
Robbie's-
to Robbie. Rob.
He was like, bro,
Robbie.
you got to manifest the spot. And I was like, Robbie, I'm not going to manifest a parking space. Where do I park? And he's like, oh, dude, you got to drive around and just manifest it. And I was like, okay, are you telling me to just drive until someone moves and I can park my car? And so that's what I did. But then like that's proof that he was right because he was like, see, I told you, and then you found a spot, and I'm like, whatever, dude.
Yeah, I used to drive around LA and be like,
Robbie Man's a
there's an
trip.
open spot,
Yeah,
and then I'd
Robbie's cool,
look
dude.
and hope that it was manifested, and be like, there's an open spot, and I'd look and hope that it was, and it wouldn't be, and I'd be like, no, I don't think this is really working. But eventually, you'd find an open spot, and you could claim, hey, I manifested it.
No,
Yeah.
eventually
That's-
you find an open spot because it was there. Like
Right.
if you don't manifest
And sometimes
an
it's
open
there
spot,
right away.
Don't ruin it. Come on.
That's ridiculous.
Dude, Christian, I got to know about your book. It's been there this whole show, and I've been looking at it. I don't want to derail anything,
No,
but
yeah,
we have
what's
like,
the book? What's the
Yeah.
book, man?
tell me about this virtue. So it's called Virtue Bombs. And you lived in LA? Is this what this is about? The
No,
entertainment
I mean I
industry?
just cover Hollywood. What's
going on?
it's exactly what we talk about as far as narratives, but it's a woke narrative that's just crushing Hollywood. It is making things less creative. It's obviously, attacking comedy. It's identity politics gone wild. It's so many things that are going wrong with Hollywood. And one of the things that I'm really upset about the whole situation is I'm waiting for that Tom Hanks, that Denzel, that Meryl Streep to come out and take a stand against what's happening in the industry. And they won't do it. They're all scared to death.
Why is it? What do you think it is?
I mean, it's fear. I talk about this in the book very early on. Hollywood is all about fear. It's like fear of getting older, fear of losing the next gig, fear of your movie not making any money, fear of someone behind you who's better looking and more talented going to take your role. Fear of getting young, getting old,
Canceled.
Well, now then you add this layer to it, and it's a whole new layer. And they're scared. They're just absolutely terrified. That's why very few people are saying, I mean, the Adam Carollos, the Ricky Gervaises, the Joe Rogans, they are standing up. They're doing something about it, but they're the exception to the rule.
You think like Tom Hanks is afraid he might get canceled?
Tom Hanks just decided to narrate a special about Joe Biden's first year. You know why? Not just that he's a liberal and it's fine with him. His movies aren't doing well right now. He's in his 60s. He's looking at things and thinking, maybe I should kind of, secure my situation. Nick Searcy often says that sometimes actors, when they get really woke on social media, it's not about what they believe or think. They're actually auditioning for the next role. They want to kind of say, hey, I'm with you. I'm in the group. This is what I believe as well. Come hire me.
There's like a Q. It's called the Q rating or something. Is that what it's called?
So the approval rating is what people think of you or something like that?
In like Hollywood, I thought the agencies have like a number they assign to like celebrities.
I haven't, definitely true. I haven't heard in a while, but that's, sort of the popularity, the acceptance, things like that.
I would say John Cena has the best social credit score, especially when it comes to Hollywood. And then behind him is The Rock, that also shills for the governor of California.
Yeah, this is legit. It's called the Q score. Wikipedia says it's the measurement of familiarity and appeal of a brand, celebrity, or company. So Tom Hanks does this video because he knows it's going to get attention.
Sure.
And then the agencies are going to be like, people know Tom Hanks.
Oh, yeah. No, I understand the whole mechanics behind it. I'm just thinking, if you're Tom Hanks, you just watch the last year of this presidency, even if you voted for Biden, even if you're a left of center, even if you're a hardcore Democrat, you really want to sign on to this guy? At this point, what we just watched? I mean, that kind of boggles the mind, but you see that a lot.
Did he get paid?
Who knows?
Oh, come on.
I'm
Sure,
sure.
be transparent.
Absolutely.
If they're using taxpayer dollars for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The White House admittedly bought social media influencers on TikTok to promote the vaccine in their vaccine effort.
It's hard for me to even comprehend that people like Meryl Streep, Denzel Washington are afraid of getting canceled because they're so powerful.
Well, look at Scarlett Johansson. It's a big part of my book. She's very beautiful. She's very talented. She's bankable. When her movies come out, they make money. So she's maybe the most powerful actress in Hollywood. She took a role to playing a trans person in a movie called Rub and Tug. And then the woke mob came after her like that. I am sorry. I'm going to be an ally. I am so, I will do better next time. That's the most powerful person in Hollywood. What about other people? Lower levels, the gaffer on the movie set, an actress coming up. What do they think when they see something like that happen? It sends a signal. It's like with Dave Chappelle, the most powerful comedian of our age, the GOAT. And yet he's under constant attack now because he told a few jokes that that some people didn't like.
And he starts to falter. His last special was very much him like constantly addressing the criticism.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But it's the
Absolutely.
criticism, as we mentioned, of less than 2%. It's about 1% of the U.S. population who are active. So you have 2% of the U.S. population active on Twitter. About 1.2 or so are left because there's slightly more left than right. And Dave Chappelle is addressing those people.
Yeah, absolutely. And also what's interesting about him is like, what is the message for the other comedians? You think they're going to go near that material? They're going to think they're going to take a chance? If they could almost take down Dave Chappelle, and good for Netflix for standing by him, and they've done that mostly, a pretty good job of saying, we back him, we understand what's going on. But if you're like a club comic, and you're just starting out, and you want to kind of engage in some really challenging topics and themes, but you don't have his skill set, and you don't have his fame, I would avoid it. You might not get work. I talk to comedians all the time who get attacked by other comedians and who try to get them canceled. It's fascinating.
But the
It's scary.
system broke. Ryan Long is enjoying tremendous success and growing rapidly because he doesn't care.
Yeah.
He's a funny guy.
Yep. No, he's existing in this whole new, he's not
Yeah.
on Saturday Night Live. He's not going to be on Netflix, but he's got his own little niche and he's very successful. He's also very good.
Yeah.
And he's aggressively apolitical, which is
It's
interesting.
interesting, I think, about like how figureheads are so powerful for morale. Like if an army of 10,000 men is engaging another army with 8,000 men, but then the leader gets killed, the army will rout. They'll turn and run because they've lost command. And if like you see Tom Hanks bend the knee, then that it's a similar morale shattering effect on the people that follow and obsess over Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
No, go.
When you were writing this, did you follow like the history of this coming up in the last 7 years or something?
It kind of encompasses that time period. It feels new-ish. There have been echoes of it for a while, but it's the last 3 or 4 years where it's metastasized in a way that is so powerful. And so, Barry Weiss's Substack page had an amazing article recently. They had two investigative reporters dig into people. I think they interviewed like 25 people. Most were off the record because they're scared to death. And they talked about how if you're a white male in Hollywood, you're out. You just don't get work. They actively don't want to hire you. And listen, Hollywood has done a terrible job with diversity. And this is a course correction, but it's an extreme course correction. It's way too far. So if you're a white comic, you're in trouble. You're not going to get the gigs.
Hollywood got
not
shattered.
for talent.
It got shattered by internet video. I was there in 2005, 6, 7. I started making YouTube videos in 06, and I watched like the entertainment industry start to be like, what are we going to do? I would get called into auditions, and then they would Google my name for the first time in history, an actor. They would look outside of the audition for who is this guy, and they'd see like crazy videos of me, and then they'd be like, I'm not touching that.
Yeah.
But then you see Maker Studios, a bunch of YouTubers make this company, sells to Disney for $1 billion because they're desperate for content and for entertainment. And it's instead of people going into Hollywood and getting contracted with Paramount, they're starting up their own thing now.
But for a lot of actors are marketing essentially. They put the name on the title. They want to people will go see it because that can pull those actors are recognizable. With internet video, there's a lot of people, and the internet really changed this. There are people who have no business in certain industries becoming successful in certain industries by simple virtue of being famous. Like the Paul brothers are boxers now. You know what I mean? Like, well, they're famous. They can get drawn. They can make money. Who cares if they're good at boxing? We're going to make millions of dollars if we do a boxing match with them. Rap battles, all of that stuff. So it's the whole landscape is shifting, and it's turning into, are you famous or are you not famous?
One interesting thing I noted, there's a new Lord of the Rings series coming to Amazon Prime. $465 million poured into just one season. September 2nd is coming. So I don't know a lot about it. They haven't released a lot about it, but they had a list of the actors who were in it. I didn't recognize a single name.
Yeah.
The brand is Lord of the Rings. You don't need that. Even with all that money, they went with a whole bunch of lesser known actors because that is the property. That's the drawing.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Same with the Marvel movies. I remember if you look back at the old articles, it was really funny. They were sharing them on Reddit. And it was like Marvel bets big on no names. Was it Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston? And it was like showing pictures of them. And it was like, can these movies survive? And now they're huge. Now they're so famous. So they knew. And Marvel notoriously pays very, very little for their actors in these movies. They get paid like a couple $100,000 for it. Except for Robert Downey Jr. He was getting an obscene amount of money. I think what did they report? Like tens of millions of dollars?
At that point, he was the anchor of the whole franchise. So they just threw the Brinks truck at him. So
That's right.
and deservedly so.
Yeah.
Deservedly so. It was great.
But you know what? Now, like a lot of it's moving to streaming, and it feels like one thing that really bothers me with Netflix is that they'll do 2 seasons of a show no matter what, and then just cancel it. It's just really like spaghetti thrown on the wall in a lot of ways.
It's also, there's no transparency there. Like Netflix will say, okay, this show is our number 1 show and this is number 2. But with movie theaters, you can see the grosses. You can see what movies make each week. A lot of these new platforms have nothing. It's just you have to trust them. So we don't know if it's low ratings or it's too expensive or there's some sort of behind the scenes controversy. We have no idea.
You know what it is? It's boring.
Yeah.
Groundhog Day was a great movie.
Yeah, sure was.
Ghostbusters is a great movie.
Oh my gosh.
But no one wants to take chances anymore.
Yeah.
And I think it was who was it? Was it who was the guy who said no one wants to take chances anymore because you'll get canceled? And they thought he was saying you'll get attacked for being racist. What he was actually saying is they'll cancel your TV show. I can't remember who that was. Donald Glover, maybe.
Maybe so.
I don't know.
Yeah.
He was just like, nobody wants to take chances anymore because you'll get canceled. And then everyone was like, just don't be racist. What's the problem? He's like, no, I mean your show won't make it. Like, you've got to
Literally
stick to the
canceled.
formula. So every movie is becoming very much the same. They're like, let's make 12 Avatar movies because that made money. Let's make 50 Marvel movies. That makes money.
In your research, do you find actors that buck the system and still keep working?
Very few, very few. Some comedians are able to do that. Adam Carolla maybe is one of the best examples. But he built his own pirate ship. That's what he calls it. It's his own company. So go try to cancel him. Although one thing I will say about Adam is that no one's even trying anymore. When you punch the bully back in the nose, they kind of go away. But if you kind of let them influence you, then often they'll kind of own you. Go. Quick, Tina Fey is a great example. Very funny lady. Did a lot of great shows. And a few years ago, she was under some sort of quick, kind of early cancel culture attack. And she said, you know what? I'm making a policy not to explain my jokes, which was a great answer.
That's a good policy.
Like a year or so ago, she's all woke. She's all into cancel culture. I'm so glad I'm being educated. She was basically just saying the party line. So 3 years ago, 4 years ago, she was proud and independent. And now she's been re-educated.
Oh, good. I'm glad the
Has she
struggle
been? What's
session
she-
worked, and we can all go back and delete 30 Rock
What's
now.
what's she doing now? Other than, isn't she deleting episodes of 30 Rock?
She had, I think there's a new show that might be on Peacock or something that she might be involved with. But I was reading her interviews and she was talking about comedy and the atmosphere and things like that. She was completely transformed. But it's like Jimmy Fallon too. He was not
Margaret Cho is not funny anymore at all.
I don't think she ever was, but I think she was more of a true believer, even I think early on.
Interesting.
We've gone over, but we have to do this segment on the Gettr crisis mode leaked audio, and so this will dig into some of our super chat time, but we kind of that's my fault. We trailed off and talked about a bunch of crazy stuff.
We can stay a little long. You guys okay?
But people absolutely want to know about this. It was in the title of the video because we plan on getting into it with Joe Rogan stuff. So here's a story from Mother Jones. It's kind of crazy. Leaked messages show Gettr in crisis mode over Joe Rogan criticism. They suggest deeper involvement in the MAGA company by a controversial Chinese billionaire than previously acknowledged. I'm not a big fan of Mother Jones. I don't think they're always wrong, but I think they're manipulative and they're agenda-driven. And they're probably doing this story because it's bad for Gettr, and Gettr is MAGA. But they do have leaked audio from Miles Guo. They say, talking to Jason Miller, he says, we don't want to do any bad things to this guy, Rogan. He says, we need to respect him. Just explain to him what happened. This is leaked audio about how Joe Rogan came out and criticized Gettr. The interesting thing here is, Luke, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Jason tell us that Guo was not involved, or what did he say?
Yeah, I mean, I asked him directly about the involvement of Chinese money and the money that's financing the company. We should pull up his exact comment, but from what I think he said that the decisions are made by the company, and the investors don't have say in that much in the company.
But didn't he say like Guo's not directly involved, no formal role, no money, or something like that?
We would have to look at
we had
that
to pull it up.
statement to be correct, but I think you're right.
But this is fascinating because, I mean, it just shows that there is apparently this involvement. I don't know exactly what that means necessarily because Guo is this guy who comes out and is overtly anti-CCP. But it is interesting because it's still a Chinese interest funding U.S. companies. And I don't know, man. I don't know if I trust that kind of stuff.
I'm definitely not a xenophobe, but firstly, that it got leaked is a little concerning because I think he sent it to 10 people, and one of those
Is
10
that what it
people,
was?
yeah, Guo sent it to 10 people, that conversation, and then of that, somebody leaked it. That's like, if you're in your inner circle, of your 10 inner circle, someone's going to leak your stuff. That's kind of bad news structurally for the company.
20 people.
20. Okay, thank
It
you.
was one-on-one with Miller and then forwarded the exchange to a group of 20 associates.
20. So one out of the 20 people must have leaked. Seems to have leaked that. That's disturbing.
I don't know if it's the biggest deal in the world, to be honest.
It's not.
I'm just wondering if there's like
It's a normal conversation that goes on in a corporation when you get bad PR.
But the question is this Chinese billionaire involved in a social media platform that's trying to attract all of the MAGA
Is he on the
people?
board of advisors? That's what I want to know.
Well, I don't know. I think the question is just it's not relevant to what you can claim. You can have someone who's got no direct involvement, but they're secretly running the show.
So, like,
those are
if there was leaked audio of you being like calling Steve Bannon and being like, "Do you think I should something paint my wall brown?" Would they be like colludes with
paint my wall brown? If he was like, "I need you in relation to your last guest, you got to understand this guy needs this, that, this," I'm like, "Okay, you got it, man."
Okay, so if it was related to this show, hey,
Like if
I'm
there
thinking
was-
about having someone on Wednesday. Should I? and Steve gives you his advice, are all of a sudden you colluding with Steve Bannon? Like, no, come on. You just asked a friend some advice.
I guess it depends on, what we get out of this to what degree. The criticism and the fear is that there's a Chinese billionaire, regardless of what his position on the CCP, involved with a ton of American companies.
And honestly, I've never seen you ask someone what guests you should have on, and maybe that would be a problem.
I have none
how
of
you should
this.
run your company.
Maybe that's why my perspective is that this is maybe more nefarious than it really is, because I don't have anything like this. There's nobody that I talk to about anything. In fact, Lydia does the bookings. I don't do it.
Yeah.
She's like, not even into the microphone, just like, yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Sometimes I get my friends to come, and then there's usually
Then there's
controversy
chaos.
behind it.
Good work, Luke.
And I'm like, what am I doing? And they're like, oh.
Sometimes they're great. Sometimes they're tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. There's like memes coming out of like Gettr going down, and it's involving me. Like, I'm like, I don't know, man. I just was asked questions.
So with this Chinese billionaire, I would be very cautious because I was thinking about it and I was like, well, it would be great if he were anti-CCP. That's kind of a cool idea that somebody could flee China and come to the U.S. and work against the Chinese Communist Party. But there is almost a better chance that he's working with the CCP. They're paying him and he's being like some kind of spy for them. I don't know. That just makes me really cautious and worried.
It's basically just leaked audio of Guo advising Miller on what to do about the Joe Rogan situation, which is just
crazy.
Regarding the CCP, like if he works for it or not, like you look at Jack Ma, who's a Chinese billionaire, he got ripped apart by the CCP. He lost like half his $900 billion empire. They took a bunch of his company. Like he disappeared. They disappeared him from society for like 3 months.
And then he
Was that the,
apologized.
And then he apologized. And
Yeah.
Okay.
they sold off one of his companies. He's the owner of Alibaba, and they sold off like half of his other Ali company.
I was thinking of the Apple Daily guy who also he was doing a daily in Hong Kong, and he was imprisoned along with a bunch of his staff.
So
it was
Guo-
totally different, yeah.
Guo fled the country. He's not in China, so maybe they're not able to get to him, or maybe he's a plant. I really don't know. I don't know the guy.
Yeah, I don't either.
I'm not confident in Gettr, and I hate to be that guy.
Well, it's proprietary,
Don't
man.
be
You
that
can't trust
guy.
proprietary software. You can't trust people telling you
Yeah,
what it
Gab's
does.
open source.
You can only
It's
trust
crazy.
code when it comes to social networking. It can be tracking you. It can be selling your data. It can be feeding you algorithmic ads, and they can tell you with a smile on their face, "We're not doing any of that." But unless you can inspect the code and verify it, you cannot trust. You cannot trust any human regarding that kind of thing.
I don't know what to think about all this, to be completely honest, but I guess it is what it is, and we'll just see more information comes out. Yeah, maybe it's something, maybe it's nothing. Maybe like we know he knows Guo, and maybe they're just talking, or as Mother Jones tries framing it, it's deeper involvement than anyone realized.
He sent it to 20 Gettr employees.
That's kind of weird.
I guess.
Guo sent it to 20
Yeah,
Gettr employees.
or maybe it's an attempt at generating press.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Or maybe they leaked
you
it.
don't think so?
I don't know.
I don't
the
know,
media's
man.
going to jump on like the Mother Jones is doing it. I mean, that's the template.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see how that plays out, but let's go to Super Chats because we're behind.
We're
But,
late, yeah.
If you haven't already, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, become a member at timcast.com to support our work and get access to exclusive members-only segments from the podcast and a bunch of other shows as well. Let's read what we got. All right, let's see. What is this? Araftas of Stat says, "Hey, Tim, came over from Crowder's show. Didn't like you at first. I think it was the glasses, but really love the show and the work you do. The work you folks do. Keep it up." I haven't worn glasses
Yeah,
in what,
it's
like
been a while.
a year and a half?
Talking about me?
Yeah.
No, I was wearing glasses for a while before.
yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't like. I've always worn contacts, but I just figured, I'm not going to dry out my eyes because afterwards I would go skate, then put my contacts in fresh, and then I would skate, and I was like, it just felt better. But then I was just like, just wear my contacts, whatever. I got good contacts, no problem.
Do you have those day-night contacts?
No, I got dailies.
I got the ones where you can wear them for a month. There was like the rage. You could wear them for a month and then take them out. Did you ever see that? Like 2006, 2005.
That seems like a bad idea.
I wore it for 8 months. I would take them out once in a while and wash them and then put it back in and keep, because I was broke. I was so poor.
Oh, man.
And my eyes started to get really red and like bloodshot. I'd take it
Yeah,
out
there
and
was
it would
a
just
girl
be a
who
ring
went
of
blind
red.
from that.
Yeah.
There was a girl who went blind from keeping the same contacts in.
They don't sell those anymore.
That's
Don't
why
do
I
that.
just wear glasses.
Same. I
I
stopped
don't
wearing
have to
contacts.
worry
after
about that at all.
It's not fun skating in glasses, though.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can, but all right. Trent Lomolino says, "I'm already puking."
No.
Aw. There's gonna be a lot of puking.
I'm sorry.
They can follow
I
you.
live for the
We
no
are
Luke, we
change.
puke. No Luke, we puke. Comments are a warm place in my heart.
Rob Cochran says, "Yay, Luke is leaving. Now other people will be able to talk and share with
What?
us."
Hey, excuse me there.
He found my alternative account.
All right, what is this? Little Tails Farm says, "Here's a press 5 super chat for Luke. Take care, bro, and safe travels to Florida from all of us here at Little Tails Farms. We will be keeping up with you."
Thank you.
I got to figure out how to keep the pressure on Bill Gates with the smooth charm.
That's right.
I'll send you talking points
Okay,
during the
good.
show all the time.
Good.
Did you know Bill Gates did this?
He's your insider.
Kyler Casimir says, "Hey, Tim, I've been enjoying the Cast Castle channel. Good stuff. I noticed you order out a lot for the crew. I think the house would definitely benefit from hiring a chef." You are
Oh, yes.
correct.
Oh, yeah.
We do order a lot. We just ordered a bunch of Starbucks.
Yes.
We don't like Starbucks for being woke, but we bought a big order from Starbucks because they ended the vax mandate when a bunch of other companies weren't. And I said, I reward good behavior. I like
Yeah,
what
I
they're
respect
doing. I'm
that.
going to, still be critical. If they come around and do stupid woke stuff or bring it back, then we'll stop buying from them. That's
Yep.
how it works.
I don't like it.
But
I don't like it because it's like if someone puts their foot on your neck and then eventually they take it off and you're like, oh, thank you so much for taking your foot off my neck. Let me buy you're a good guy now. But it's like they put you in that position to begin
yeah,
with.
but it's a little
Not
different.
Starbucks.
It's the difference is it's a big corporation that's doing a whole bunch of things, and we're trying to push it in the right direction.
Right.
So I see your point though.
Yeah.
I get it.
I see your point.
But I want to add, at the new facility, which is currently being built, we will have a chef.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
people have told me too they don't think that you should reward Starbucks for doing something good just because they didn't do the right thing in the first place. And
Then they will get woker.
Jordan Peterson says if someone does something right, you reward them for it. That's the only way to get them to do more of that thing. And I think he's right about that. So I think it's the right thing to do.
If you don't engage, then Starbucks just goes, well, we
Doesn't matter.
tried, but
Right.
they don't care anyway, so
Right.
let's just keep pushing woke where we can make money.
Exactly.
Nah, it's not about what Starbucks is doing. It's about winning influence, winning friends and influence. All right. Garant says, Stephen Colbert lived long enough to become a villain. It's pathetic. He's against the country that gave him this opportunity for cheap CBS bucks. He's a manure spreader now. Yo, it was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. When Kirsten Sinema, who correctly said the filibuster is like a safeguard that makes sure that, that legislation has broader support in this country, he goes, no, the side that's filibustering represents 41 million people less. As if the people of Illinois are literally every single person's a Democrat. Yeah, Illinois is like split. All of these blue states are fairly evenly split, except for California, which is like 2-1 Democrat Republican. So when you look at the country as a whole, the people of these states should not be blindly marching behind Democrats because they're ignoring conservative constituents. So you get Sinema and Manchin who are like, I'm going to respect that my state's fairly moderate. Colbert is wrong. Cristiano says, my gems.
Gems.
If
Best
you guys,
line.
I have an amethyst right here.
if you guys aren't watching the Cast Castle vlog, you're missing out. So it's basically Seamus and Chris
Oh my gosh.
engaging in enhanced interrogations to figure out who's spreading rumors about Seamus. And they
wasn't me, I promise.
they put Ian on an inversion table and flip him upside down, and gems go flying everywhere.
That was
So
amazing.
good.
My gems. All right.
Gems.
Ray says, live Dave Smith, he recently made a mistake. He blamed Alex Jones for helping to incite the crowd on January 6th. I think Dave has Alex Jones derangement syndrome. Get him back on with Alex and Malik. Is that true?
He says
That Dave
love.
said that?
Didn't
Love
see
Dave
that.
Smith. I bet is what he meant.
No. He says.
In the
Oh,
beginning,
okay.
love.
Right. But he recently made a mistake. Alex is on camera saying, "Don't go in the Capitol. Stay out. They're trying to trick you." Alex was very adamantly, and he had a permit too. I'm pretty sure, right?
I think
Yeah.
so, yeah.
They did.
He knows what to do.
John White says, please use this for gas to get the mobile studio to Florida. We will miss Luke, but his nomad status is part of the overall Luke package that we
Correct.
will love. Stay real and keep making new shirts and words. Much love.
Yeah, I mean, the Radowski has to Radowski. You know?
That's right.
I gotta get
That's
moving.
gonna reduce.
We actually had our RV tech come out today for measurements. And then within the next couple of weeks, they're going to be finalizing the new RV mobile system. We got a different one, which it's a better system. It's going to have a solar system on it and an insane amount of electricity. So we're going to be able to power this thing independently without needing, outlets and stuff. So that way we can go down to Florida. I think we're aiming for mid to the end of February because there's a couple big events that are happening.
Right.
And then we're going to try and take the show on the road periodically and do like what we did in Austin, which was amazing. And it'd
So
be really
fun.
cool because if we we had plans to go to the Daily Wire's headquarters, but imagine just doing a ridiculous cacophony show with Daily Wire hosts.
I mean, just come to Florida, once a month for 3 to 4 weeks.
Sure,
I
yeah.
think it would be
Once
a
a month
great
for 3 to 4
idea.
weeks.
There's so much. Live events in Florida would go crazy right now. We got to do it.
Here's a good one. Buffalo Rowe says, in reference to the Rogan letter, when Einstein was challenged by Nazis with the publication 100 Scientists Against Einstein, he replied, "Why 100? If I was wrong, it would only take one." Could you say congratulations to my wife, Nicole? She's expecting a 4th child. Wow, congratulations, Nicole.
Wow.
Congrats,
Good work.
Nicole.
All right, let's see. Ian Hall says, bro, androgynous and tiny, Disney has been pushing that for years. It's a small world. Aha. All right, Joseph says, Tom McDonald's new song dropped today called New World Order.
Oh my.
Coincidence Luke mentions New World Order?
I mention it every show, along
Yeah.
with Bill Gates
Luke.
and Build Back Better. The
Wasn't
Great
there a
Reset.
Twitter fact check on the New World Order?
I don't remember,
There
but
was.
I'm
there
pretty sure
probably
someone look
was.
it up.
But
It's
how
funny.
absurd our society is.
Mikhail says modern war is 5% kinetic, 15% economy, and 80% information.
Yep.
Ericsson controls telecom in 184 countries. This gets them blackmail information. This gets them power. Did you realize Ericsson controls AT&T? Is that true?
This is the first I've
didn't know
heard of
about that.
Ericsson.
Did someone look up that Twitter New World Order thing? I'm pretty sure they did it. It was funny.
A Swedish multinational networking and telecommunications company headquartered in Stockholm is Ericsson.
Oh, that's not the Twitter thing I was talking about.
Telefonaktiebolaget LM Ericsson is the name of the company.
Unvaxxed Soldier says, this is a reference to Luke. Luke brought it up, but he said, politicians already go to the island after their terms. Epstein Island.
Yep,
Aha.
absolutely.
Yep. I think a bunch of people made similar jokes. Omega says, Ian is correct. Caligula insulted the Senate by practically saying that he would make his horse a senator, basically saying my horse can do better.
Yep.
Yeah, but let's be real. Like when that dog was made mayor of that town, everybody really appreciated it.
And that cat in Alaska.
Oh, really? A
Yeah,
cat?
there's a cat. Yeah, he's been mayor for
People
a long
were
time.
like, we don't need politicians.
Best mayor we've ever had.
Jared says, Tim, you need to have Dan Bongino on the show to talk about what he is doing with the parallel economy. Russiagate, maybe even some Secret Service stuff. That'd make a great show. Dan Bongino would absolutely be welcome on the
Great.
show, but he does his own
Busy.
show.
Very
And it's
busy.
a very, very big show. So, probably busy guy. But would love to have him. It would be great to have him and a few other people maybe. We could do a big, crazy show. That'd be awesome. All right. Let's see. Heffinator, is that what it says? Helfinator? With West Virginia losing a House seat, merging both Panhandle districts, many in my area are not happy with McKinley, but hear good things about Mooney. Have you thought about having Mooney on your show? I don't know a whole lot about a lot of the West Virginia politicians because I have not been there that long. But, and also, I don't know, to get into local maybe. Let's put it that way. I think maybe that'd be a good idea, actually, and talk about West Virginia, because everybody talks about Florida, New Hampshire, and Texas. And I think West Virginia does some good stuff, too, and they can do a lot better. And maybe by bringing some of these people on and asking these questions, West Virginia can do even better. And then everyone's going to be like, I can't believe you made America Florida, Luke. You should make America West Virginia.
That's right.
I like
West Virginia's awesome, man. Look, I guess it's because I grew up in a more similar climate than Florida. It's tropical. It's not my thing.
If it wasn't for Florida, there would be lockdowns, there would be mandates. There was the only state that first stood up against all of that
South Dakota
nonsense.
did.
The fight is there. No, Florida. I mean, DeSantis on the large scale, especially with the corporate media, the attention was all on Florida. They were saying it was going to be a bloodbath. They made the first stand. They made a very strong one. So the fight is there. There's an election there. There's a lot of energy there. It's going to get absolutely crazy. So that's my personal belief. I want to invest and build, especially with the Bitcoin community down there in Miami. There's a lot of incredible
And in
things
Puerto
happening.
Rico, too.
Absolutely.
Jay Stewart says, wait, they gave Cyborg a laser? No. It's a freaking sonic cannon, not a laser, not a gun. It's a souped up megaphone. Writers, get your own lore correct or stop writing. Jay, whoa, slow down there. I was talking about Arsenal, not Cyborg. Arsenal is the original Roy Harper who was frozen by Lex Luthor. And then the clone went on to become Red Arrow, but because of the freezing, I guess he lost his arm or something. So they gave him a robot arm, which could shoot lasers. And I was watching that and I'm like, it's just some kid with a gun. Like, could you imagine if we're superheroes and it was just teenagers with guns? Like, we would think that's really messed up.
Yeah, I liked Cable, from X-Force.
Oh, he's cool.
He just had a big rifle, but he also had cyberkinetic powers.
Could he absorb energy or no? He didn't, did he?
I don't think he. No.
What was his power?
He was psychokinetic. He could move stuff with his mind.
Really?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Oh.
Do you know one of the things when you have kids now, one of the things you have to tell them is not to make any jokes about school shootings or kids with guns.
Or don't eat a Pop-Tart into the shape of a gun. You'll get
Nothing
arrested.
like
Or
that.
draw one.
Yeah, no, yeah, we talk about that.
Wow, that's crazy. When I was a kid and the teacher was talking, I'd be drawing little doodles of stick figures fighting and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
firing
Yeah.
guns at each other and, flamethrowers,
I
fighting
did too.
dragons. Now you'll just get kicked out of school for
You'll
that
go to
That's
jail
right.
for
Yeah.
that.
stuff.
now.
Go to jail.
Literally, there's,
You'll get
you're
reported.
under
You're
arrested.
arrested, son.
You'll get
I'm
reported.
7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to go to the museum without your Vax pass? Jail. New York
Put
City.
a Hannibal Lecter
Do you know
mask
what
on
it's
your face.
resulted in, though? My son and his friends joke about how frying pans are actually the best weapons.
Wow. Okay.
All right,
Great.
Caleb says, yo, I would love to smoke a fatty with Ian and just ask him random theological questions and let him go. It would be like winding up the cymbals monkey and let home bang away at the strange.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if I'm doing it and I stop and I'm not listening to you for a second. It's tough to like channel your feelings and your thoughts and still listen to your environment, but that if you can master the two of them together or like impulsively happening back and forth really quickly, you could. It's like playing in a band with someone. You want to take control and speak the truth, but also be listening to their truth and make it blend. So let's do that.
All right.
Hi on a
First-
fatty.
It's a date.
First Thessalonians says the Bible foretells of the New World Order in Daniel chapter 2 and 7, 12, Revelation 13. If it was right about the technocratic takeover of humanity, it is for sure right about Jesus Christ. I will say, man, when I learned about the mark of the beast, in order to buy, sell, or trade, you need the mark of the beast. Someone super chatted that to us, and I was like, "There's no way it's that specific. That's crazy."
Yeah.
And then I looked, and I was like, "Whoa, that's true. That's crazy that it says that, man." Because that's basically what was happening. What if it's all true? Do you guys think it's true? Do you think it's true?
The whole Bible?
Revelation?
Revelations?
No.
Revelations, or is it Revelation?
Revelation.
No
No
S.
S.
Is it just Revelation?
Yeah, just
Revelation.
one. Yeah. So I was looking at a passage last night, and I think that people wildly misinterpret Revelation, including Christians. So I don't think there's any kind of consensus on that book. It is crazy. It reads a little bit like a drug-fueled dream.
It does.
So I don't think that we're going to understand it until, maybe until we go to heaven or something. I don't know. No
Until
idea.
after it happens, you can go, "Oh, there it was."
Yeah, exactly.
Because
Yeah, that
otherwise,
makes
people are
sense.
like, "Could it be?"
Yeah.
A lot of people were saying that like some alignment in the sky was like some reference
Yeah,
that was
I don't
happening or
know.
something.
Just kind of suits their interpretation at this point.
John says, "Shout out to my girl Libby. Admire your faith. You are a class act."
Aw, thanks.
There you go.
She's a classy broad.
Did you guys see that Joe Rogan had Robert Epstein on his show?
No.
Yeah, he's the guy who talks about how Google manipulates the system and can change votes.
Oh my.
Yes.
So the one free man says Robert Epstein didn't kill himself.
Oh, gosh.
Wow.
Oof.
I don't know if you can make those shirts just yet, Luke.
Hold on to that thought.
Hopefully you never have to be honest.
Yeah.
That's a scary thought. David says, did you hear Aaron Rodgers call out Biden and his super duper 81 million votes and how Biden called him out on getting vaxxed on ESPN today? There was some like statement by Aaron Rodgers. It was amazing. He was like talking about censorship. Did you guys see that?
I missed
Yeah,
it.
he was just like, when are the people censoring information and trying to restrict thought the good guys?
Yeah.
They're
been-
not.
Yeah, they're never the good guys.
He's been on fire.
That's a good
Yeah.
statement.
When you get personally bitten by the situation, by the narrative, you come roaring back. That's why Joe Rogan, I think that CNN horse dewormer thing, I think that really kind of lit a fire under him.
You know what's
Exactly.
interesting though? I don't know if it's interesting, but we don't.
We'll be
don't-
the judge of that.
We don't see a lot of women doing this.
Yeah.
Speaking out, fighting back, pushing back against Hollywood, against these woke narratives.
J.K. Rowling is just by standing.
Yeah, I mean, by standing
Tall
her ground,
is-
she has
is
for
huge.
sure.
I agree.
That's true.
But shout out to Aaron Rodgers
She's
and also
amazing.
Kyrie Irving. I usually have their jerseys behind me, and they both of them have been
Ines
doing really
Kanter
amazing.
Freedom.
And I'm gonna get
things
a
fighting.
Meatloaf poster.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a big
sweet.
Meatloaf poster. Yeah. So when I heard the news, I posted the song "Kickapoo" from Tenacious D, which is a great song. And it's a hilarious movie. You guys know this one. Meatloaf sings along with Jack Black. Love that movie, man. And it's and Meatloaf was a good dude. He believed in freedom. Much respect. So we'll get a poster for him up here. John says, my dad thinks you're a grifter and puts you with Hannity and Tucker. It's a shame. He did finally admit Fauci is corrupt and needs to go, though. I'm not the biggest fan of Hannity. I don't think so. You know, Hannity to me feels canned. I don't know if grifter is the right word. Tucker, I think, is legit. I think Tucker believes what he believes. And the reason I think that is because his opinions have changed and he's admitted he was wrong about a lot of things. He has no reason to do that unless I guess he's grifting or whatever, but I don't see it. He's actually gone further than I would expect him to based on a lot of things he said. And he's also resisted saying some things that could have made him money. I think Tucker legitimately started talking to people and had some, political changes. As for me, it's funny because my politics are like the same for the most part, except for the Second Amendment. The people who've like followed me for the past 10 years or whatever are like, he just says a lot of the same stuff over and over again. It's boring. But for people who don't watch it, they're like, someone on the left said you're a grifter, so it must be true.
So your view on the Second Amendment has changed?
Yeah, I used to be kind of like, people should have right to have guns, but I think there's like a discussion we can have about, gun ownership and what makes
And
sense.
now you're like, fuck no. Oh,
Yeah, I
excuse
used to be like, well, it's not a big. No, I used to be like, maybe there's insurance, would make sense. Maybe that could help people. And then I had a few conversations, and then my view basically became, well, the Constitution says it. So if you want to change it, change the Constitution.
Yeah, fair.
If that being
yeah.
said, then there should be no NFA, there should be no ETF, there should be none of these things. It just feels like the Democrats and the anti-gun people, the authoritarians, it's basically the authoritarians. If you want to take guns away, you're just a crackpot despot. That's it. Anybody who believes in freedom is going to be like, you should have a right to have a gun.
I think that tabletop fusion is like here, and they're afraid to give people that power. It's like giving them a rocket launcher. But like, it's so easy to fuse hydrogen with a palladium substrate, heavy hydrogen, deuterium. Like, they're doing it. They do it experimentally, but it produces so much.
You ever hear about that dude who
energy.
made a radioactive death laser in his garage?
No.
He was taking the what is it called? The americium? Is that how I pronounce it?
Oh no.
The element. Look it up for me. I don't know how to pronounce it. You take it out of smoke. He was taking it out of smoke detectors, I guess, and it's radioactive. Huh. And then he made a gigantic critical mass with like tens of thousands or something like that. And then the feds dropped in on him immediately and arrested him. But apparently they gave him I read the story. They gave him a chance to work with the government. Like, if you want to do this, we'll put you in a lab. We'll fund everything you do. Whoa. But the dude was crazy. And so he went out and started trying to make a radioactive critical mass. And he was like covered in lesions. You can't, ladies and gentlemen, read the story. Avoid that
David
stuff.
Hahn?
Like, was that his name?
Is that who?
I don't know.
Guy who diligently amassed radioactive material by collecting small amounts from household products.
That makes
Sounds
sense.
about right.
Yeah.
Something I read
Wow.
somewhere.
Yeah, this is
Americium.
Americium or something. 241 is used
Americium.
as a radionuclide in this type of smoke detector.
Is it on
It's
your
radioactive?
Is it on your periodic table of the elements?
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
number
way at the end.
241. Is that right?
I think it's a synthetic.
Well, you have it right there.
Placed between two electrically charged plates. So there's nuclear.
Yeah, and apparently
That's
he
cool.
he mashed this critical mass into some kind of metal box or lead box that had a hole in it, so it was all focused. And then they
Gosh.
they knew he did it as soon as he did it, and they
That's the thing
stormed it like, what are you doing, you insane
like
person?
you say, the people that are hiding the information are never the good guys. But I wonder, like, if someone came out and was like, oh, and by the way, if you want to create world-ending explosives, here's how. Like, that wouldn't be a good guy either necessarily.
Aren't the blueprints for like nuclear bombs just on the internet? Like, can't you just read it in university? It's just you don't have the
Probably.
infrastructure to build something like that.
Yeah.
But this guy's apparently crazy.
Yeah, he
Anyway.
was schizoid.
That was fun. Hey, man, thanks for hanging on this crazy Friday night. We kind of went all over the place, but I think it was worth it. So go to timcast.com, be a member, support our work. We rely on your support. We are not principally funded by ads as much as some of the activists lie about. We're actually funded by you guys. It makes everything operate. So we really we appreciate your support at the website. Smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. You can follow us at Timcast IRL basically everywhere. You can follow me at Timcast. And do you want to shout anything out, Christian?
Yeah, my new book is Virtue Bombs: How Hollywood Got Woke and Lost Its Soul.
Where can they get it?
Everywhere, Amazon, you name it.
Oh, right on. Yep. You have social media at all or anything?
Yeah, at Hollywood in Toto on Twitter, and my podcast is Right on Hollywood.
Right on. You want to shout anything out, Libby?
Yeah, I'm Libby Emmons. I'm at the Post Millennial. You can help us out by subscribing, reading our articles, checking it out. And we're at thepostmillennial.com/contribute if you want to help us out that way. And I'm on Twitter at Libby Emmons.
So I have my own media organization called We Are Change. You can watch my videos on youtube.com/We Are Change. I also have a lot of pretty exciting, weird, unusual things going on LukeUncensored.com. And it's going to be hard to leave, but, deep down I am a Polish Florida man. And never forget freedom. Someone said this before. I forgot exactly who, but freedom is the oxygen of the soul. So thanks for having
I'm
me.
going to miss you, Luke. It's been fun the last few months, last year, or whatever it's been. But I know you're going to make Florida great. So I'm glad you're going.
course.
And I'll see you soon. Bye, everyone. I'm Ian Crossland. Check me out, iancrossland.net. I'll see you later.
I had fun on this last show with Luke talking about everything from Caligula's horse.
Well,
to
my truck may break down, by the way.
Oh,
if my
okay,
truck
so
breaks down, I'm going to be
Luke's
here
coming right back.
for a few
We'll
more
see what
days.
happens.
But there's other situations. Practically, I hope you never know what RV life.
Well,
so,
we hope that Luke's able to make it down to Florida because that's where he really wants
trying
to
to
be.
get rid of me, Linda.
Yeah, just a little. No, just kidding. Anyway, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Sour Patchlets.
We will see you all. Well, we'll see you in the Cast Castle vlog at youtube.com/castcastle tomorrow because we have an episode up every single day. Other than that, we'll be back on Monday. Thanks for hanging out.
Bye, guys.